Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Brooke Grimsley is here. Danny Mack is here. I'm Randy Carricker. It is great to have you with us on a beautiful Taco Tuesday morning in St. Louis. It is 53 degrees. That brought to you by Second Alert Weather here at 101 ESPN. A high today of 71. So be prepared to get outside, kids.
Oh, I was outside yesterday for the eclipse. Were you guys out there for that?
I kind of was. I had my moonroof open.
You didn't have your glasses? You got to have your glasses to look up there, Randy.
And it was unbelievable. There was nobody on 40. There were like 6 cars on 40. And I'm driving down, and all of the companies, everybody's standing out on their parking lots looking up at the sky. I hope they had glasses. But I did feel the darkness a little bit for the eclipse.
It got cold for a little bit. Dan, did you wear your glasses and stare at the eclipse?
Oh, yeah. All my neighbors were out looking around, and I was as well, and just had the time of my life.
Really action-packed.
Just the time of my life, looking up at the sun.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool, though.
It was. It really was.
Hey.
Were you in the path of totality?
No, we were not in the path of totality, but it did get colder.
Yeah, some people drove to the area where you could see that.
Didn't get there.
Oh.
Did you see 55?
Yes, it was completely backed up.
Yeah, people, they planned on getting there in an hour. It was like a 3.5-hour drive, and people didn't get there. They
Was
had to
it
watch
really?
They had to watch from their cars or get out or whatever. The traffic on 55, there will be photos that you'll see. If you watch local news this morning, you'll probably see it. Or they probably have photos on the interwebs. Yeah, it was unbelievable that people were trying to drive to Poplar Bluff to get to the path of totality, and they completely missed it.
Again, time of my life looking at the sun.
Kind of like watching the first 8 innings of the Cardinal offense last night.
Randy, come on.
Well,
what do you mean? Because they were held to just 3 hits through the first 8 innings?
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. Cardinals lost in 10 to the Phillies 5-3. I used to like that ghost runner rule. Now I don't.
What would you? Are you guys more fans of the bunt? Now, they couldn't bunt last night. They were down by 2, so it didn't make sense to bunt. But even against a guy like Ryan Helsley, if I'm the Phillies, I'm probably bunting. Now, it worked out for them, but no one bunts in that situation to put a runner at third and less than 2 outs.
Which seems crazy to me because it's an easy run. You get a runner at third with 1 out. Why not take the free run that they're giving you?
And you put the pressure on the home team to make at least at a minimum, to score. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me either.
I think the only new rule that I don't like is the ghost runner. I just don't like it. I get that it's supposed to move the game a little bit faster. I just don't like it.
And I liked, and so, this is old school me, and I get that people that are half my age or younger don't like this, but some of my favorite memories are 18, 20, 25 inning games.
Oh, I love them.
Yeah, fantastic.
Love them.
I'll never forget Jose Oquendo pitching and Rick Mailer throwing nine relief innings in that game against the Cardinals, or the game that you guys had in Arizona that I stayed up for, or the game where Kyle Loesch played left field against the Mets. Or I'm a little kid in 4th grade, and the Cardinals play 25 innings in New York, and Bake McBride scores on a wild throw to first and comes around to score. Those are really searing memories for me that we'll never have again.
If I'm a pitcher, I like it, though.
Yeah.
And the reason why is that somebody is going to be in extra inning games the way it used to be, a sacrificial lamb. And then all of a sudden they get sent down the next day because they're completely gassed and you need to bring somebody up. So that's why you do it. That's why you have the ghost runner. And if you're an agent, you're saying, I like it too because my guy stays.
Well, and as you say, I think the biggest thing, Dan, is you don't completely blow out a bullpen.
Yep.
Because teams, when they play those games, they'd have to send 3 guys down and bring 3 guys up the next day. Cardinals did get a great performance last night from Miles Michaelis. He goes 6 2/3, allows 2 runs on 6 hits, a couple of walks, a couple of Ks, 3 Ks, 89 pitches and 6 2/3. He was terrific. And you can say this for the Cardinals. They went into the offseason saying, okay, we're going to get guys that eat innings. And for better or worse, their guys eat innings. Last night, better. The day before, probably worse, but at least they're getting innings and preserving their bullpen.
Well, and it was his second quality start of the season for him. And I know it's very early on here, but I thought that it was a good job of him being able to limit the Phillies to just 2 runs and keep it in the ballpark. That's the biggest thing there. But the other side of it is that he didn't get any run support. That feels like something that we've experienced with Miles Michaelis. It feels like several times during his career with the Cardinals. The heart of the Cardinals order needs to do more, and that's just something that we have to talk about. With Goldschmidt, Gorman, and Arenado going a combined 2 for 15 with 7 strikeouts, including back-to-back strikeouts to end the game in the 10th inning, that's starting to become, at least to me, an alarming trend.
It'll get overlooked, but I thought the key at bat in the game, and it could have changed the complexion of the game, was in the third inning, and a runner at third, less than 2 outs, and Paul Goldschmidt at the plate and struck out. He just did not look comfortable. You have to get that run home. The one thing about Michael is, too, I thought he was giving up some rockets right and left, and the Cardinals also said we need to be fundamentally better defensively, and I thought Mason Wynn played an outstanding game. Take his 2 hits away and the game-tying base hit to send it to extra innings. This kid can pick it, and he's got range, and he's got a great arm, showed it off on a double play. So, to Miles' credit, he got through it, but he had a lot of good defense behind him.
And he's not going to be a strikeout guy. He's going to be a guy that is going to, the bat's going to hit the ball, and he's got to rely on his defense. Brooke, to your point, though, Goldie with a 319 on base, 275 slug. That's unacceptable. And Arenado, 261 batting average, 271 on base, 326 slug. Now, they don't have Wilson Contreras at the moment, but Ivan Herrera's been fine. So, to your point, you're paying those guys $26 and $35 million, respectively, to be the difference makers in winning games. And as you said, Dan, Goldie had an opportunity there to win the game. And those are multiple opportunities over multiple games where Goldie has not come through early in the season.
No, and maybe it's just something where it is early on in the season and they just need a little bit to heat up there. But it's kind of an alarming trend because we talked about it, and it was just spring training, but Paul Goldschmidt had a very slow spring training. And then he was able to heat up a little bit towards the end when you were starting going into the season. And it just feels like right now, just watching eye test wise, that Goldie and Arenado don't exactly look like they're comfortable. You mentioned that they don't look comfortable exactly right now.
Goldschmidt is 8 for 40. That's a 200 average, 1 extra base hit. If you take away opening day, it would be glaring. I think opening day kind of was able to calm the waters a little bit after a really poor spring training, to your point, Brooke. But, when you look at opening day, take it out of there, the numbers are glaring in the wrong direction for Goldschmidt, and you have to have the middle of the lineup come through. I'm sure there's going to be times when these guys get hot and they get hot together. It's just the way that baseball works. But right now, it stands out as a sore thumb.
And to that point, Goldschmidt, in his career, 276 batting average in March and April, 300 in May, 306 in June. On base, 377, 391, 403. OPS, as he goes along, 845, 937, 959, 924 in July, 928 in August, and then he does fall off in September from a career standpoint. But traditionally, he's been a slow starter and gets better as the summer comes.
And, Brooke, as you're saying, he doesn't look comfortable. The thing that stands out to me, the numbers are not good, with what he's doing at the plate, but it is the barrel rate and also soft contact, and those numbers are not going in the right direction. Remember, he's 36, so he's on the back end of his career, and the trajectory usually at 35, 36, even before that, is to go down. It's incumbent on him to bring it back up and to see what he can do.
Yep, absolutely. Now, Barry Bonds had his best year.
Oh, yeah.
When he was, 38, 39. So.
I don't think Goldie's on steroids, so I think
Barry,
that makes a difference.
Barry never failed
It does.
the test.
Now, I will say, and we talked about Mason Wynn and what he's able to do offensively and defensively, the way that his arm, I think a lot of people talk about it being flashy. Of course it is, but at the same time, it's going to save you a lot of potential runs down the road, and you were able to see that on display last night. And you do need a really good and talented first baseman like Paul Goldschmidt. He was like a magician over at first last night.
People that are my age will remember, and I've told you guys before, how Gary Templeton would toy with runners because he knew how fast they were.
Just wait till the last second.
Rocket. Yep, and then he'd get him by a half step and force guys to run the whole way. And he had a magician, maybe the magician at first base in Keith Hernandez. But Mason Wynn is the most talented defensive shortstop the Cardinals have had since Ozzie Smith.
I'd say Brendan Ryan would be in the conversation, but this guy looks better because his arm is just magnificent. Brendan Ryan had great range, but this guy, his range and his athletic ability, I think, is even better than Brendan Ryan.
And Renteria was a stud, by the way. We are dismissing the talents of Edgar Renteria.
Just really solid fundamentally, and at the plate, you notice that. I think another story that's developing with the Cardinals is the usage of Matthew Liberatore. Came in a one-run game. He's sitting at around 94 to 96, so he's airing it out, coming out of the pen. And maybe this is who he is. He has found a role. It was a one-run game, and you turn it over to Matthew Liberatore. You would not have done that more than likely last year. Certainly would not have done that 2 years ago. And maybe it's not the role of being a starter, even though I'm sure he wants to be. Starters get paid. But he could have a really nice run as a reliever in 2024.
I think he's reminiscent of Andrew Miller at his best.
That's what I think about, too.
Yeah.
Just a lefty that comes in and can dominate at times.
For multiple innings.
Yes, and that's what he's doing right now.
College basketball last night. UConn wins their second straight national championship, 75-60 over Purdue. UConn finished one of the most dominant tournament runs in history. They've won every single game of their back-to-back run by at least 13 points. They've missed 32% of the NCAA tournaments played since 1999 as a program. They've won 24% of the tournaments. They've won 6 in 25 years.
I thought it was a dominant performance. They are relentless. There was pressure constantly on Purdue, always moving forward, never slow. And the key in the game, remember, they had a 6-point lead at half. It grew to 11 in 5 minutes. Zach Edey had, 37 points. But no one, if Purdue was going to win, someone outside of Edey had to step up, and they weren't able to do that. Now, to even further the statistical dominance of UConn, average margin of victory was 23, and they were plus 140 in point differential. It was the UConn Invitational.
It really was, and that's what you said. And we knew the end result here. I thought maybe Purdue could put up a bigger fight. Zach Edey, another big story coming in this NCAA tournament. But at the same time, it was UConn versus everybody else. It was like boys against men, and the men were UConn in this situation. Now, the big thing to watch, Dan Hurley, is he going to stay there?
He said last night that he wants to go to be a dynasty. He wants to win 3 in a row, and he laughed when somebody asked him about Kentucky. He said, I already took my wife away from New Jersey. She's from there. He said, I'm not ready for divorce. I just started making money.
Yeah. And remember how he started at UConn, too. It wasn't pretty. And he said, hold on, I'm going to get this thing rolling. I loved what he had to say the other day, and I don't know if you guys heard it. He said, we coach these kids hard because our facilities, the money put into our program, the NIL situation is second to none. So they need to be coached hard, and we deserve it, or the fan base and those boosters deserve it, that we coach these kids hard.
And when asked how he does it, he said, hey, we recruit NBA players who are willing to do what you said, Dan, be coached hard and buy in and subjugate their ego at the door. So you got NBA talent that's willing to play a team game.
Sounds a little bit like John Calipari.
Yeah.
When he gets them to play together. Sometimes there's too many individuals with him, but I don't think there's any doubt he's going to go to Arkansas and get NBA talent. He's an unbelievable recruiter.
By the way, Tristan Newton named the most outstanding player of the NCAA tournament. And St. Louis U did introduce their new head coach, Josh Schertz, yesterday. And Coach will join us coming up at 8 o'clock, and we'll talk about his vision for Billiken basketball. Brooke, Dan, Randy, the opening drive, 101 ESPN. With all of the UCL injuries that Major League Baseball is complaining about, were the Cardinals smart to sign these pitchers that aren't going max effort? That's next on 101 ESPN. Dan and Randy, the opening drive on 101 ESPN. You can watch us on our Airlines Team Studio Cam, YouTube channel 101 ESPN STL. Just go to youtube.com and type in 101 ESPN STL if you'd like to watch us. And on Friday, we're going to be on the road, and we're going to be at the grand opening of the new Rawlings Experience at Westport Plaza from 7 to 10. Rawlings opening the Rawlings Experience right here in St. Louis, and you can experience the past, present, and future for everything baseball and softball. We, the opening drive, live Friday morning for the grand opening of the Rawlings Experience in Westport Plaza. And Brooke is not going to be there, so she's hoping that I'll get her either a Gold Glove or a bat.
Please.
Yeah,
I mean, at least a Gold Glove.
Okay, well,
that's not too much to ask for,
no,
right?
No, it's not. I don't
Okay.
think so. So we'll get you one. Maybe a platinum.
Oh. Should
So
be
they
easier.
have a display?
They will.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's
Looking
gonna be-
forward to it.
It's going to be great. All the kids that come into town during the course of the summer for the baseball tournaments that they're going to be playing in will have the opportunity to head on over there. The Cardinals got another good innings performance out of Miles Michaelis last night. And when the Cardinals signed the pitchers that they did, Gray, Kyle Gibson and Lance Lynn, they said, what we want to do is get innings. They wanted to go old school, and they have done that. Now you see all of these pitchers going down with ulnar collateral ligament injuries and having to have Tommy John, and most of the pitchers are in agreement that the problem is max effort. Well, one thing about Lynn and Gibson and Gray is they know, and let's throw Miles Michaelis in there too, they know how to pitch without max effort. I wonder if in the long term of a season, 162 games over 6 months, if the Cardinals will wind up looking smart here.
Maybe it's a new pitching approach, even though it seems like that everybody's trending towards swing and miss. This rise in elbow injuries is starting to become really alarming. We're continuing to see stories, more and more stories of very key vital starters who are going out. They're out for the rest of the season with Tommy John. They're going on the IL with elbow injuries. And so now when you look at what the Cardinals have, they have innings eaters. And it's something that is very valuable to your rotation. You still need some swing and miss. You also need guys that can be innings eaters where you can also save your bullpen, which we have been able to see, and something that I like to see also. Now, the biggest thing that we've noticed, though, with Kyle Gibson, even Miles Michaelis and Lance Lynn, is they just need to keep it inside the ballpark, because defensively, that is what has improved so much for the Cardinals this season after last year. And I know that injuries were a big part of that, but as long as they keep it inside the ballpark, the Cardinals defense looks good enough where they can handle that.
Last year, there were more Tommy John surgeries than the entire decade of the 1990s. In 1 year, compared to a decade, more surgeries last year. Here's the one thing, though. What's baseball all about? It's about power. It's about hitting home runs. And if you look at slugging percentage against velocity, it's amazing. I mean, it's 100 percentage points higher than guys that are throwing 92, 93 to those that are throwing 98 to 100. And if you want to stay in the league, you've got to be able to throw hard. You've got to be able to keep it in the ballpark, or look at strikeouts. If you can get strikeouts, you're valuable in this day and age of baseball. It's just a different day and age of baseball.
It is. And to that point, I mentioned this yesterday, Dan, when you weren't here, and you probably asked this question too, and this includes Mike Maddox. But I asked multiple people over the years, former major leaguers, if Greg Maddux were to be eligible for the draft now, an 18-year-old Greg Maddux,
not a
would
chance.
He get drafted? He wouldn't even get drafted.
Not a chance.
No. And I still think there is a place for that pitcher, and Maddox was a unicorn. But if you can command at 94, I think you can get away with it. But you have to have exquisite command, and not many guys have that.
You got to have command, and you have to have a ton, and I mean a ton of movement.
Yeah.
If you don't have a lot of movement, I mean, these guys they could throw 200 miles an hour, and a major league hitter will barrel it up.
Right.
They'll find a way to hit it.
They really will. And the thing is that the innings eater, I think they're also most valuable at the back end of the rotation. Now, at the front end of your rotation, that's where you can run into some problems, but they're most valuable at the back end of the rotation. I just don't know where you go from here, because we talked about yesterday the velo, the increased velo being the issue that we're seeing right now that is going with these injuries. But you can't take a step backwards, because as you mentioned, Dan, that's just where things are going. It's power now in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, it's no question. And velocity is what dictates the game, and I think that's a major, major part of what's happening right now.
So the question becomes then, Atlanta loses Spencer Strider. The Rangers lose Jacob deGrom. Zach Wheeler missed basically 2 full years after he was traded from the Giants to the Mets with various arm injuries. You have to plan, and this is why you need to have 10 or 15 starters. You have to plan on your young pitchers having Tommy John surgery, and you have to have them be replaceable. And that's where baseball is now, right now. That's what Garrett Cole complained about yesterday, is that pitchers are thought of by baseball as disposable commodities because baseball doesn't want to pay him anyway. So you have a pitcher for 5 years. He comes up, he throws 100 miles an hour. When he can't throw 100 miles an hour anymore, he gets hurt. You get rid of him and you get a new guy.
How about when they signed or traded for John Lackey, knowing in his contract he was going to have Tommy John surgery and still pay? I mean, they said, no problem. We know it's coming. We're willing to do this. The Boston Red Sox, and then he came to the Cardinals. The specialization of kids, I think, is a problem too.
Biggest problem.
They're throwing so hard at a young age, and it's they're not playing other sports, so it's constant. And I think that's a problem with the pros as well. The season ends, and then all of a sudden, what are they doing? They're going to driveline. They're not taking any time off. And I'm not a doctor. You guys aren't doctors, but I think these are all logical factors as to why we're seeing all the Tommy Johns.
Well, Jeff Passan, he has a book that's called The Arm that came out in 2016, where for 3 years he went across the world and across the country studying pitchers and why we're seeing this increase in elbow injuries. And that was one of the things that he discovered, is that it's an overuse at a young age, the specialization that we're seeing with pitchers. Also, an unnatural pitching motion is a big part of it, and a rapid increase in velocity that we're seeing across the league. But also another factor is sticky stuff. We've heard some pitchers talk about that. That's something that is now banned, but maybe that's a factor as well.
We got a text message here from the 636. I think this is a great point here. I think they're smart in that if you get big league guys that can stay healthy, you reduce the amount of starts the AAA guys have to make. For an guy that is nasty and gets hurt, maybe posts a 2.5 ERA, but if he only gives you a little bit of starts and half of his starts are made by a AAA guy with a 7 ERA, give me the middle ground guy that gives you a 4.0 ERA and 30 starts.
And if the Cardinals, you don't want the Sunday start from Kyle Gibson, but if 2/3 of the time you can get a decent quality start out of Kyle Gibson, 6 innings, 3 or fewer earned runs. If you can get that out of your big four, you're going to win the division. If you can get that out of Gray, Michaelis, Gibson, Lynn, if you get a quality start 2/3 of the time, you're going to win the division.
I think analytics is a part of this too. Spin rate. And throwing harder is going to give you better spin rate at times, and that's part of it too. To sticky substances that you're talking about, that's one way to get the spin rate. Or when you take that out, you got to find other ways to get it. And throwing harder, max effort, is part of the game today, whether you like it or not.
Maybe that's something that Manfred and baseball should look at. Whether it's getting a pre-tackified ball, they have that in Japan, they have that in, I think, AA, or just allow the sunscreen and the rosin and let the pitchers do that. Because the hitters, remember when this all came about, the hitter said, I'd much rather have a pitcher that knows where the ball is going rather than throwing a cue ball that they have no idea where it's going.
98 at my head because the pitcher on the mound is young, and they pressed him to be part of this rotation because they're paying him a ton of money, and say, okay, here's our guy, and some guy gets in the batter's box and gets plunked because the pitcher has no idea where it's going. He's too young.
I agree with you. I think that the other big thing here, too, is just the leadership portion of this. And I know that maybe people are tired of hearing that with the Cardinals, but you bring in Kyle Gibson, you bring in Lance Lynn, and, of course, Miles Michaelis is another innings eater, and we're talking about that specifically. What do you think the young pitchers are learning from these guys?
It depends on the person, because the Cardinals didn't even want to ask Jordan Hicks about cutting back on his velocity to enhance command. So what you need to have is guys that are watching somebody succeed without extreme velocity. You know, you can still get away if you throw 98. You can still throw it doesn't. Ryan Helsley doesn't have to throw 102. If he can get more command with 100 or 98, he's better. But it's going to take those guys recognizing, hey, you know what? I'm looking up at the thing, and he's throwing 97, 98, but he's getting people out. I think that's where the leadership is going to come in, is having the young pitchers that are willing to listen and learn how to pitch rather than just throw.
I think, and that's the point. So strategically, something Major League Baseball could do is say, inside the game, if you take your pitcher out early, so say you're going to take him out after 4 or 5 innings, 2 times through a lineup, you lose your DH. So that makes a pitcher stay in the game longer, which then says to the pitcher, maybe you need to back off if you want to stay in this game 6 or 7 innings and not throw max effort for 7, 8 innings. because it's not going to be sustainable. So use the DH to your advantage and say, if you're baseball, you take out your starter, you lose your DH.
Yeah.
It's really a strategic way to do this.
Right. One thing we know about the Cardinals and every other team, we don't know who it is, but there's going to be a Cardinal that's going to require Tommy John surgery this season. Every single team will have a Tommy John guy. And we just don't know who it is. Phillies, we mentioned Wheeler, who's a stud, who's going tomorrow for that, or tonight for them. And Aaron Nola has been, knock on wood for them, he has been able to avoid it so far. But at some point, they're all going to, everybody who gives innings is going to have Tommy John.
Isn't it amazing that you say that? And it's probably true. At some point, someone's going to have a forearm strain. Keenan Middleton is coming to mind right now. That would be of concern for me if I'm the Cardinals.
Coming up next year on 101 ESPN, with Arkansas getting John Calipari as their basketball coach, are you worried about them, with Jerry Jones and John Tyson of Tyson Chicken and Wal Mart and their money coming after Eli Drinkwitz? That's next on 101 ESPN. I have my fence from Chesterfield Fence and Deck, and there's a lot of good reasons to enjoy products from Chesterfield Fence and Deck. They've been in business for 56 years here in St. Louis. Everything that they provide is guaranteed by a 5-year labor warranty and comprehensive material warranties, and that's one of the reasons that Chesterfield Fence and Deck is A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau and are a BBB Torch Award winner. They have so many accolades because of the great work they do. They care about it, and they put quality and professionalism first in everything they do, whether it for you is a fence or a deck, a sunroom, a screen room, pergola, and they do a beautiful job on cedar and vinyl fences, but their cedar and vinyl decks are amazing, and their new Vecca deck is incredible. Their new Vecca deck color is spectacular. It's pewter. It's a gorgeous gray that has beautiful variation throughout for a natural look. You can get in touch with Chesterfield Fence and Deck by finding them on the web at chesterfieldfence.com or call and have an appointment set up and have them come out to your house. At Chesterfield Fence and Deck, the sign you have the very best.
This is Rocc with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. UConn's men's basketball repeats as national champions with a 75-60 win over Purdue last night. They won every single game of both parts of their back-to-back run by at least 13 points, again, including a 15-point win over Purdue last night. The Cardinals, though, fall to the Phillies in game one of their three-game series, 5-3 in extra innings. It'll be a 6:45 first pitch for game two tonight. It'll be Zach Wheeler for the Phillies, 0-1 on the season with a .75 ERA, facing off against Sonny Gray, making his Cardinals debut with a pitch limit of 65. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff. Find your road and shop 24/7 at Londoff.com and LondoffAutoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
The John Calipari contract with Arkansas reportedly will be finalized today. Calipari reportedly will get at least $5 million a year in NIL funds to disperse to his new players. He was making $9 million a year at Kentucky, and he's not going to leave Kentucky for the Arkansas job for significantly less money than he was making. So we can assume that he's making $9 million a year in salary and then getting another $5 million to give to the players in NIL. And now Arkansas has their guy, and they're happy with basketball. They were unhappy with football, though, last year. Sam Pittman was on the edge of losing his job, and the reports are that the guy who really set up this Calipari deal is Johnny Tyson, who is the CEO of Tyson Chicken. Jerry Jones, and Brooke, you can give us a little insight into this. Jerry Jones heavily involved with the Arkansas football program, correct?
He is heavily involved because he is an Arkansas alum, so he's a huge donor over there. But also, don't forget about Wal Mart, because Wal Mart is based in Arkansas in the Bentonville area, which is just right outside of Fayetteville. So you have Wal Mart in play. You have Jerry Jones in play, who's a big donor for the football team. You also have now Tyson Food. I have to wonder, though, Eric Musselman, who was the head basketball coach prior to this situation, if he's like, where did this NIL package come from? Because the money has been there, but it was very apparent that with what's coming out with the story is that Tyson basically saw what he wanted, and now this huge NIL package came out. You have to wonder if he's going to do the same for football.
That's the question. Would he be willing to ante up to get a native Arkansan in Eli Drinkwitz to replace Sam Pittman at Arkansas?
If you're Eli, though, would you say, I have the resources here, which means I've got NIL, and they do. They have navigated those waters so well that is it a lateral move for him, or is it a situation where a coach says, generally speaking, I need to stay at a place 4 to 6 years. It gets stale. Some boosters don't like what you do, and it's time to start fresh, which is something that a lot of coaches look at. You stay 4 to 6 years, and that's your shelf life at a particular school.
Money always talks, but here's another aspect of this, is that Mizzou still hasn't hired an athletic director. So maybe a lot of this could be dependent on if Eli Drinkwitz, if you want him to stay, make sure he is heavily involved in the process of hiring an athletic director at Mizzou so that you can all be on the same page and making sure that he's happy to stay there.
And it very well could be that Mizzou goes cutting edge and has a committee for athletic director, maybe 3 or 4 people that are actually overseeing, and you have one for football, one for men's basketball, one for non-revenue sports, and one for non-revenue women's sports. They might wind up with 4 different athletic directors at the University of Missouri.
That is so outside the box thinking. Hadn't thought about that. And then you make sure that every coach is on the same page with each AD. Now, they do have conduits between the coach and the AD that are particularly working for that sport. But, man, that's outside the box thinking. I like it.
Yeah.
It really is. I wonder if fans are worried about Eli Drinkwitz. I think that you were already starting to hear his name floating out there even more and more with Nick Saban leaving Alabama. Then all of a sudden you're seeing Eli Drinkwitz, because of what he was able to do with Mizzou, really building the program up. His name is out there more and more, especially with what he's able to do on the recruiting side. Now you have this big NIL floating around with Arkansas and what they're willing to do. And by the way, for those wondering why, if you don't know, why I might have some familiarity with Arkansas, I covered the Razorbacks for 3 years. And so I know how intense that fan base is and how passionate they are about their football team.
Now, the other part of this that comes into play is that Arkansas has a chance now because they've been in the same conference, in the same division with Nick Saban for 17 years. Well, now there's no Nick Saban and there are no conferences, no divisions left in the SEC. It's all just one big group of teams. So you're going to be basically playing a schedule where you don't have to have a schedule where you have to play LSU every year. You have to play Alabama every year. You have to play Auburn every year. Everybody's going to have their own little pod of 3 teams that they do play every year. But for Arkansas, for example, they don't have to play those teams every year that were the power of the SEC in their division.
Maybe I'm wrong, but if I'm a basketball fan of Arkansas, I wake up this morning and I am thrilled that I got John Calipari, who has produced 58 NBA picks in his career. He had 47 at Kentucky. In 14 years, he had the number 1 class recruiting 8 times, number 2 class 6 times. I mean, the guy is just a flat-out recruiter and getting the best players in the country, and you wake up this morning and that guy's in your backyard.
And if he can't get it done, who can? And that's one of the things about, there's 2 programs in America that just pay extraordinary amounts of money to coaches and resources, but it just doesn't happen for them. And it's Texas A&M. We saw it with Jimbo Fisher, and it's Arkansas with the money that they have spent on coaches and facilities and resources. But since Nolan Richardson was there, it hasn't happened for them in basketball. And since Lou Holtz was there in the 70s, it hasn't happened for them in football. I wonder if in 2024 and beyond, if that institution is capable of winning national championships. We know that Mizzou isn't because they've never done it before. They haven't been to a Final Four in basketball. They haven't been to a college football championship. So Mizzou, until they prove it, we have to say they can't. I wonder if Arkansas can bounce back and do it again.
That's a tough question. But now that you have everything that's changed with the alliance, with everything with college football in the playoffs, it feels like everything is possible now. And you don't have Nick Saban around anymore. College football has changed so much. I feel like we're going to see some new teams rise to the top.
If you're Kentucky, do you take a run at Rick Pitino?
I was wondering that.
Yeah.
I would think that that's on the table at least, or discussed.
He's one of the names.
Wouldn't that be something if he goes back to Kentucky with everything that's happened with him? Iona, St. John's, back to Kentucky.
Yeah, and I guess Billy Donovan is their number 1 target.
Yep.
He was an assistant to Pitino there. Apparently, Scott Drew is going to be one of the people. He has a great relationship with Mitch Barnhart, the Kentucky AD, so Drew will be one of the people that they contact. But Pitino certainly is going to be on the list. I wonder if Pitino, it's Rick Pitino. He would leave to go back to Kentucky in a blink.
I don't know. Do you think he would leave to go? I don't know if he'd leave the East Coast again. You know what I mean? He said, I'm so happy being back home on the East Coast. And do you want that total pressure of Kentucky? My guess is he does. And you're going to have great resources to win. He's going to get kids, and he can coach.
And he might set his son up to take over for him eventually.
That is a great point. And that's valid.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that coaches do.
I was thinking about, and I mentioned this earlier, Dan Hurley, but that's a really good one, too. I could see him going there. What about Bruce Pearl? But I feel like he could be a dark horse candidate if some of these others don't work out.
Definitely. If they don't work out, Bruce Pearl's always looking for the next gig and the next multi-million-dollar contract.
And that's what I'm saying. I mean, these coaches have a short, majority of them have a very short life. I mean, if John Calipari, and maybe I'm wrong about this, and I'm not in the weeds with Kentucky, but if he leaves Kentucky to go to Arkansas, that should tell you the natives are restless for a guy that gives you 58 NBA picks in his career. I mean, you're not going to get much better than that guy that gives you that much talent.
But 1 Final Four, I believe, in the last 9 years. That's
the difference.
That's the expectation that they have.
And what was it? The last 3 years, you missed a tournament, first round exit, and a second round exit
to Oakland,
and that doesn't cut it.
No, not at UK. We would love that. We'd be thrilled here in Missouri. We go to the tournament 3 years in a row and win a tournament game. Dennis Gates. The bar's not too high.
No. And Josh Schertz, same thing.
Yeah.
Get you in the NCAA tournament.
And Coach Schertz will join us coming up at the top of the hour. But next up, we've got Take It or Leave It. Get your text in to the Air Comfort Service text line, 314-399-9646, 314-399-YO-HO.
Yo-ho.
There it is. Love it. Tioli next on 101 ESPN. The warm St. Louis weather is on the way, and as a matter of fact, we're going to be up over 80 degrees this weekend. And as the warm weather approaches in St. Louis, you want to make sure that your air conditioner is in great shape. And if you haven't scheduled your air conditioner tune-up yet, then give my friends at Hoffman Brothers a call, 314-664-3011. Again, 314-664-3011. They'll come out and they'll change your air filter. When's the last time you did that at home? A friendly reminder from Hoffman Brothers that now's the time to get that tune-up scheduled. You don't want to wait until it stops working because then it gets really hot in your house. The maintenance on your air conditioner once a year is just as important as changing the oil in your car. Call today to schedule your appointment, 314-664-3011, or go to hoffmanbros.com. And if your air conditioner is even having a hard time keeping up with the summer heat, or if it did last year, and you have hot and cold spots in your house, well, Hoffman Brothers can help out with that because they are a Mitsubishi Electric elite contractor, and they can handle all of your air conditioning needs this summer. Again, 314-664-3011 or hoffmanbros.com.
Start packing.
That's my final offer. Take it or leave it.
All right, kids, the easy one for you to start. Take it or leave it. Allowing Sonny Gray to start a major league game tonight without benefit of a rehab start in the minors is the right thing to do for the Cardinals.
Is the right thing to do? You're putting me on a tough spot here, Randy.
I'm going to leave it. I would prefer that he get a minor league rehab start.
I am with you on that one.
I was going to say the same thing, and I said it yesterday. I'll have to leave it for that because it's tough. I understand. We saw what he said last week where he really, really wanted to get out there and start for the Cardinals during this homestand. But at the same time, I just would have felt more comfortable considering his injury history back in 2022 with hamstring issues. I just would have rather seen at least one rehab start rather than a simulated game. And he will be on a pitch count, so it seems like a happy medium for the Cardinals and for Sonny Gray where maybe everybody's happy, but it does concern me because we know how vital he is for the rest of the season.
Rest of the season and a $75 million investment. And I want him out there every fifth day. So what's one more start in the minor leagues? Let him build up a little bit more and not push it maybe as much as he will. You know how amped up he's going to be tonight. I'd be concerned if I'm the Cardinals.
And here's the thing. If Lars Newbar plays tonight, if Sonny Gray pitches tonight, what the hell are we doing spring training for?
Blake Snell, 3 innings pitched, 3 hits, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, 72 pitches last night with basically no spring training.
Right.
You need, at times you need it, but when you sign these guys late, that's a problem.
Yeah.
What do you do if a pitcher like that, like Sonny Gray, says, no, I don't want to do a rehab start? How do you handle that?
I think one of the
You
mistakes.
tell them we're paying you $75 million. You're going to do what we tell you.
Agree 100%. The Cardinals have made those mistakes with Wainwright and with Flaherty in the past, and it's come back to bite them, especially with Jack because he got hurt again. So if I'm the Cardinals, I say, look, you're the employee, we're the employer. We love you, but we want to have the best Sonny Gray that we can have, and that would be including you being in perfect condition to pitch for us. And we want to just make sure that you are.
Take it or leave it, no national title game in any sport should start ever after 9 o'clock.
Eastern? Eastern?
Yeah.
So 8:09 last night in St. Louis. I was fine with that.
Really?
Yeah.
That's just me. I wanted a little bit earlier.
I can't stand it when the World Series is so late, and especially if you have an East Coast team, those kids can't watch. They're going to school the next day.
Well, I think baseball and ESPN have done a smart thing with Sunday Night Baseball to start that at 7 Eastern.
Agreed.
And 6 Central. Now with the games being shorter, though, in baseball, a 7 o'clock start is fine. Even the World Series games last year were reasonably short. But if you want to have kids, if kids are interested in your sport, you want to have them be able to watch the entirety of the game. I agree with that.
That's how I feel about it. I don't know. Rocc, you were applauding, so it seems like you agreed with me.
Yeah, start games earlier.
We're doing a morning show, though. We're different.
You don't want to stay up late, do you?
I don't mind.
No.
I stayed up for the whole game last night.
I'm not only thinking about that because it's not just us. It's because I hated it when I was a kid too. Because I had parents who I didn't get a lot of leeway if the game happened to go past the bedtime, and so I want earlier national championship games. Absolutely,
Kids can end their video games whenever they want.
We had games with the Red Sox and the Yankees that wouldn't end until close to midnight Eastern time.
Mr. November.
Yeah,
That was a World Series game, right?
exactly.
But yeah, that's those Red Sox-Yankees games. Even the regular season ones were all 4 hours.
Wasn't
ridiculous.
Mr. November against Byung-Hun Kim?
Yeah, against the D-backs.
He
Yeah.
never really responded after that.
No,
he
he
wasn't
didn't.
the same guy.
No.
All right, take it or leave it. Now that it's all said and done, the women's Final Four was more popular, more interesting than the men's.
I'll take it.
100% take.
Take it.
Yeah, way more popular. It'll be interesting to see the men's TV ratings today, but they are going to get the ratings that the TV got or the women got. If you haven't seen, the women's championship game on Sunday got more viewers than any sporting event outside of football since 2019.
Do you think that was a byproduct of when they started that game, too? Middle of the afternoon on a Sunday?
Thank you. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I think people, though, are creatures of habit on the men's side. It's a Monday night, and I think that's part of it. You put it in prime time. But it is an interesting thought because the women's game obviously had a huge following, and it was in the middle of the day on a Sunday.
I wonder if ABC could do it all over again if they would have put Caitlin Clark
In
at
prime time?
7 o'clock on
Yes.
ABC.
Then the numbers might have really jumped.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I think you got to be in prime time.
Yeah, and that's one thing Caitlin has delivered. She has brought women's basketball into being a legitimate primetime sport. It'll be interesting to see what women's college basketball does next year without her.
Do you think it mattered that the men's game was on TBS? And
I think it does.
And it wasn't on national TV, free TV?
I said to my daughter, I said, can you switch it to Channel 4? And she said, oh, no, it's on TBS. So, yeah, it absolutely makes a difference.
I did that. I turned to CBS multiple times and didn't find it.
Yeah.
I mean, I found TNT and True TV, and
they're awesome.
it's great. It's great.
All right, Matthew, what do you got?
919 did text in. They said, take it. I live in North Carolina, and I'm constantly telling my kids that they can't watch the games because they're going on too late.
Well, I have to question your parenting.
Randy, come on.
Well,
It's a fair point.
it's 1 day of school. 1 day of school for a championship game. You got 200 days of school. Okay, so if your kid is tired for one, but gets to watch the championship game, so be it.
Back in my day, you can't take the day off. You just have to go ahead. If you're going to suffer
Power through.
you have to just power through. It's a hard life lesson.
But to Randy's point, you're right. You can just call the kid in for school.
Yeah.
Give him a day off.
Yes. The Monday night opener, the 2000 season, the Rams are raising the banner. Monday night football game. First one we've had here with the Rams in St. Louis. And there's actually a debate in my house. I couldn't believe it about whether or not Patrick was going to the game. I said, of course he's going to the game. Come on. They're raising the Super Bowl banner. He's not going to the game.
It's once in a lifetime.
Yeah. And as it turns out, I said, this may never happen again. And as it turns out, I was right.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Take it or leave it. The game was lost last night when Marmol pulled Liberatore for no reason whatsoever. He was 18 pitches and cruising. Why waste another reliever, especially when Gray is on a pitch count today?
I think that opens you up. It was Castellanos that was coming up, left-hander against Castellanos.
Yeah.
That game was not lost because Liberatore left the game and was replaced by Gallegos.
And you got to have faith in Gallegos that in high leverage situations, which he's going to be in multiple times this year, you got to have faith that he's going to get somebody out.
Take it or leave it. You're going to make a lot of jokes, but you're really happy for Tyler O'Neill having success.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to take it.
that.
I'm happy for him.
You betcha, eh? It's,
We could use those home runs right now.
we sure could.
We could.
He's not making many oats.
Oh. Because he's Canadian. That's why you have to do that.
Sorry.
Whenever, that was one of my favorite things is whenever they had an ESPN game, how many times did they mention that his dad was Mr. Canada? Oh, God. It was about every single time.
Yeah.
National audience got to do that.
I know, but it was just like, we get it.
Yeah. By the way, Nick Castellanos' career against right-handers is OPS 771, against left-handers 878. So the numbers would tell you that Castellanos has a much better chance of doing big-time damage against a left-hander than a right-hander.
Take it or leave it. Optimal biscuit toppings at KFC. Butter and honey is better than butter and jelly.
Ooh, butter and I'm going to take that.
Take it or leave it. Butter and honey all day
butter and
long.
honey.
100%.
How about just butter?
Butter.
Honey on a biscuit, baby. No, I love them both. I love them all. I love just butter. I love just jelly. But I love butter and honey.
I've never had butter and honey on a biscuit.
It's great.
Or jelly. I've had jelly by itself, but not honey and jelly.
Dan, I feel like I'm learning some very interesting food takes about you because last week you shocked me with that you haven't had hot sauce.
No hot sauce, no tomatoes, no honey and jelly. I'm a very simple man.
Honey and jelly wasn't the combination. It was butter. It was butter and honey or butter and jelly.
So
but not. So it was the butter.
I guess
was
if the butter is
universal.
in the biscuit, you know what I
and
mean?
then you put honey on top of the biscuit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes like. I think that's a good combination.
This may be a myth, but I'm taking it as fact because it's fun. That if the feed area in a barn breaks, that a cow doesn't know when it's full and just keeps eating until it pops. That's what I am at Eckert's restaurant with their biscuits. And
No self-control.
You put honey on their biscuits at Eckert's restaurant.
You're all over it.
I'm all over it. I can't stop. I pop.
And this will be our last one. We're getting this from both the YouTube chat and the text line. Take it or leave it. Brooke's not old enough to be saying back in my day.
Leave it.
And I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that 100%. You should not be saying the phrase back in my day.
You say things like that, too.
I almost never do.
Oh, okay,
because my
maybe.
friends, when they say that, we sound like we're 55. Good Lord Almighty.
Okay.
I feel
No, you
old.
don't. You're
I feel
30.
old.
Here, I can fix this very easily. Brooke, would you have ever quit a job without giving 2 weeks' notice?
No.
You can say back in my day.
People our age did that all the time.
Wow.
You're allowed. Huh?
People our age did that all the time when we were growing up.
What, did you quit jobs without showing up?
Yes, all the time. That happened when I was 16.
Preposterous.
It happened all the time in 2005 is what I'm saying. That's not a new phenomenon among 17-year-olds.
See, but for Brooke it is.
We're the same age.
Back in my day, people didn't do that. Rod.
Thank you, Brooke.
They did.
When I was at McDonald's working and the guy just screamed at me and I said, I've had enough. Is that the wrong way to do it?
No, if he screamed at you. No.
He was screaming at me.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If you just don't show up for work and don't tell anybody that you're not going to show up, that's rude.
That's the worst.
I just had enough.
Yeah.
He's screaming at me. I said, no problem. I'm out. Good luck.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
So, coming up next year on 101 ESPN, we're going to talk to the new head coach of your St. Louis Billikens. Josh Schertz joins us next on the Celebrity Line on the opening drive. Mosley and Dan McLaughlin. I'm Randy Carricker. It is the opening drive on 101 ESPN in St. Louis. And for the last several years at Arch Madness, we've had a chance to see the Indiana State Sycamores, coached by Josh Schertz, and they're always entertaining to watch. And yesterday, Josh was introduced as the new head coach at St. Louis University. And Josh joins us now on the Celebrity Line. Coach, good morning. How you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me on the celebrity line, too. I got a wrong line for me, probably, but I'm glad to be on.
Doesn't take long to hit the big time here in St. Louis. Hey, let's start with this. I can imagine that this is a whirlwind. What are you doing right now? What does today entail for you?
Every day right now we're hitting the ground running. I got some meetings with the staff, former staff or previous staff here at St. Louis. I'm going to knock some of those out, try to finish up some player meetings that I got to do, and then a ton of Zooms for recruiting. We've got
Coach, I'm sure.
And then we got to work on scheduling. I think, we've got 12 games to schedule. We got a ton of recruits, probably 2 handfuls to land. So, and then there's certainly trying to work on some of these guys that are here that we'd like to retain as well at St. Louis. So, variety of things going on all at once. But this is transitions are always difficult, but these parts are kind of the most exhilarating / most difficult part of any transition.
Yeah, it sounds like you're going to be very busy. And I'm sure that there were various reasons, Coach, why you wanted to make this move. But why was this the best move for you and your career?
Just felt like took me a little while to get there, but I'll be honest. Chris, May, the Chaffetz, Dr. Costello, the board. I mean, the people that were involved in this process did a great job of making me feel like I was a priority, showing their commitment level to building something here, and then the most important part was just. I thought there was an alignment with our values and how they would go about things, what's important to them. Not just, of course, everybody wants to build a championship program and a sustainable one. And, everybody has the same kind of ambitions. But really how you go about doing that, what's the commitment level to the student athlete? Are we really in this for people to become, the best version themselves? We're going to pour into our guys the investment and devotion to the players. And, top to bottom, I felt like I looked, there was the infrastructure, the resources, the facilities, but it was really the alignment and the values that really made me feel comfortable to make the move from Indiana State, where, I was extremely happy. I was in a great situation. So that shows, how much I feel, how strongly I feel about and how good I feel about St. Louis.
Coach, describe your style of play. What can SLU fans expect next year and beyond?
I hope it's a style of play that people really come out and enjoy watching us play. I think we got guys that'll play we'll play fast paced. We'll have guys that play really unselfish. We'll have guys that play really hard. Got guys that'll play connected and together. That's been kind of the hallmark of the teams I've had going back to Lincoln Memorial, where I was before Indiana State. But the last 2 years in the Valley. We've been obviously one of the top offensive teams. We're number 1 in the country this year, number 4 in the country the year before offensively in terms of, effective field goal efficiency. But the league in assists, number 1 in the league in scoring. And I think we're going to build a roster in the same vein. We got to go out and find a bunch of players that are, really skilled, really smart, really unselfish. So obviously a lot easier said than done. But that's the plan, is to bring in guys that fit that recruiting blueprint. And then, we wanted to, for the next 8 weeks, have a roster that has the talent, character to do things at a high level. Then we got to go to work. But that's what people can expect. And I think a group that hopefully plays with a lot of joy and then plays for one another, tries to make the game easier for each other on both ends of the floor.
Josh Schertz, the new head coach at St. Louis University, with us in the opening drive on 101 ESPN. And, Coach, since you are a coach and you like challenges, I know this. So I'm going to ask this question with that in mind. I've always said that with the market that we're in, with the facilities that you have, with the players that are available locally, with the good sports town, that St. Louis University could be the Gonzaga of the Midwest. What prevents St. Louis University from having that potential to be the Gonzaga of the Midwest?
I think you're actually spot on. I think this is, one of the things I looked at with this job was, you look at Mark Few, you look at Randy Bennett at St. Mary's. this could be that type of job for me, right? That's what I think. I'm not a very nomadic person. I'm not somebody who is going to jump job to job. Even though I was only in the United States 3 years, I left because I thought this could be a job that like that. Like you could have a team that could be in the NCAA tournament, a team that could compete, not just to get there, but to advance and play deep in March and into April. I really do. I think you have everything here. I don't think there's an area, the commitment level from the university, resources we have, the facilities we have, like you said, a great city that loves sports, but it's a great town. I mean, we can recruit everywhere. We're kind of centrally located to get a lot of different places, and hopefully, as our style of play, our system, that'll help and be attractive to recruits. And so, I don't see any reason why we can't build a championship level sustainable program that plays, becomes a regular in the NCAA tournament, not just a regular NCAA tournament, but a chance to play deep into March, April.
Hey, Coach, one other thing is that Dr. Pistello has announced that next year he's going to retire. How much of a concern was that for you? Obviously, you took the job, so it's not that big of a concern. But when you found out about it, how much of a concern is that?
Dr. Pistello's been great, and, it's certainly something that, Chris and I discussed, something I discussed with Dr. Chaffetz, with Joe and the board, but I do feel very confident they're going to get somebody in much the same vein as Dr. Pistello relative to, hey, there's not going to be a retraction of support for basketball. It's going to continue to be or athletics in general. Those things are really important to St. Louis's mission. We're not scaling back. We're trying to push forward. I mean, we have really big ambitions as a university, and athletics is a central part of that. And so, from my standpoint, certainly hate to see him go because I've heard and just my limited interactions with him, you could see why he's such a successful and popular leader. But I have a lot of confidence that the board will put somebody in place there in the presidency that'll be able to kind of carry that baton and continue on that same path that Dr. Pistello has us on.
How big of an influence was college basketball Hall of Famer and former Billikens head coach Rick Majerus to your coaching career?
For somebody that I didn't really know well, I don't know that you could have a bigger impact. He was just somebody when I first was getting into coaching that I just admired. I admired the way his teams played, the way they competed. I heard him talk, and so incredibly smart. And you watch his teams play; they were so sound, so fundamental. Followed that run with Utah all the way to the national championship game, but just the consistency with which he built it, and then obviously remember him coming to St. Louis and the work he did here to build that program up. And unfortunately, as it was getting to where he wanted it, we all know he wasn't able to complete that. And so that was certainly a pull in the sense of, I know what Coach Majerus was about. He really loved this place. I remember the Sports Illustrated profile they did on him, I think when he was just coming here maybe, or maybe he was just been here, but it was how much he revered this job, this city, and what a great place it was. And so certainly played a role. And I don't, I'm sure there's differences, but I couldn't have respected a coach or don't respect a coach more than I do Coach Majerus. I just thought he was one of the most brilliant guys that's ever walked a sideline, and that he most out of his teams, which is really how you gauge a coach, is do they maximize the potential of the group they're coaching. And I don't know that anybody really did that much better than Coach Majerus.
Who are some of the other influences in your career, Coach?
Some really good coaches. During my time as an assistant, I spent 10 years as an assistant, 7 with Bart Lundy, who's now the head coach at Wisconsin-Milwaukee. So he had a big influence on me. And then, now are guys that are at the NBA level. And so, guys that I got a chance to spend time that I talk with, and guys that make me better. In college basketball, I talk to Dusty May all the time. Dusty and I, talk pretty much every day. Ben McCollum, new coach at Drake. There's a group of guys that I'm constantly talking to. Ryan Pannone is at Alabama, but a lot of guys in the NBA as well, and some guys in Europe. And that kind of group, looking at ways to improve, ways to grow, and a lot of those guys are in the same boat, and I learn a ton from them, learn a ton from film. There's not one person we really pattern ourselves after, but certainly I got a great group of friends that are all a lot smarter than me that I take a lot of stuff from and try to own and steal from them all the time. So it's fortunate in that regard, but I'd say the biggest impact has just been the amount of really good friends I've developed over the last, X amount of years in NBA, Europe, and certainly in college basketball. And I steal from and talk to those guys all the time.
Coach, are you looking to bring some of the Indiana State kids with you?
Those guys are in the portal, so unless they're, we'll see what happens. I mean, those guys are all right now at Indiana State. So, and I told them whatever best for them. That's what I told them when I was leaving. I don't think it's something where, they may, if they decide to return to Indiana State and run it back, that'd be awesome. I'd be thrilled for them if they decide to get in the portal. I think, everybody gets with, I'm not going to recruit those guys because there's nothing I could call them and tell them about me. They played for me. So right now they're all at Indiana State, and I think that's great. And if they decide to get in the portal, they would certainly know where to find me or track me down. It's not like my numbers change, but I also want what's best for them. And those guys will have a ton of options. They deserve it, and an option I think for them is to return and run it back in Indiana State. If they decide that they want to do that, I think that would be incredible. And if they decide they wanted to, do something different, would be obviously fantastic. And it's a great group of guys, great players, great human beings. That's how you go, win 32 games, and they've created incredible value for themselves as players. And each guy should do what they think's in their best interests, and I would support that. I love those guys; they know that, and whether they're at Indiana State, who knows where, whatever school they're at Duke, it wouldn't change how I feel about them.
As you mentioned, you're just hitting the ground running right now, and you're super busy. But how do you plan on getting the St. Louis area to really buy into your Billiken program moving forward?
The community. I've got to meet people. Obviously, I've got to get a roster together, and I got to balance those things. But certainly, I want to take opportunities to, get in front of people. And it's opportunities like this to be able to articulate, what we're about, what our vision is, and I'm going to do those, hopefully as much as I can over the next few months. And then as we get a team together, I want to connect the community to the team, and I want to connect the team to the community and get us out as a group. Right now, there's really no us, so I have to get us. But as we do, we'll connect those things. We'll open up practices. We'll have people in. We're going to be really open and transparent with how we run things. And we're going to try to, make sure that we embrace the community and have a group of people from a player standpoint and a staff standpoint that this community and St. Louis, the area can wrap their arms around and be excited about.
Coach, a couple more things. Sorry about that. A couple more things. Number one, is the pool of players that you recruit for St. Louis University pretty much the same that you recruit to for Indiana State, or is it? Do you recruit a different type of player to St. Louis University and to the A10?
I think the things we look for and intangible things will be the same. I think with here at St. Louis in terms of facilities and resources. Certainly what we hope to have from a collective standpoint, I think we can maybe swim in a little bit of different waters in terms of, the level of player we're able to go after. Obviously at Indiana State, we had some really good players because we have, we had guys at major level. But in terms of, we're talking about portal guys coming from different places, I think we can swim in a little different waters here. But in terms of how we play and the kind of quality of human beings we want to get, that's never going to change. That's going to be the same it was at Lincoln Memorial in Division II as it was in Missouri Valley, as it is here in the A10. But hopefully we can get in, and we want to recruit guys that can get us to where we're trying to go.
How important is it to retain local kids, and what's been your thought from afar of the talent that's here in St. Louis?
it's hugely important. I mean, I think you always want to recruit inside out. So we're gonna make St. Louis and the surrounding area a priority to recruit to. That would be crazy not to. I think it's one of the best basketball cities in America in terms of producing talent. So our ability to get guys that fit here at home. I think guys love to play close to home. We want to make St. Louis a destination spot for St. Louis kids. So when the next Tatum or Bradley Beal, these guys come through that, I know they had a shot at them, but not only we have a shot, but we can get them. So that's going to be important to us for sure. And we're going to prioritize this area in recruiting, build inside out.
And Josh, one more thing. We know you're busy with the basketball stuff. Tell us about your family and the work of getting your family moved to St. Louis too.
Got a lot there. My wife is worth a bunch. My youngest son was here yesterday, so she drove him back to. He has class this morning. He missed school yesterday, so my youngest is a sophomore in college at Indiana State, so he's finishing up class, which will take him into May. My oldest will be here with me. He's going to move to St. Louis with me. And then we've got to sell a house in Terre Haute. We've got to look and try to buy a house here in St. Louis. So all those things, getting moved. There's a lot of moving parts there. Thankfully, my wife, she'll be all over that. She runs the show anyway, so I just kind of defer to her, let her do whatever, and I'll just live wherever she tells me. And so that's kind of the way it works anyway, even if I wasn't coaching. So but coaching's a good excuse for me just to let her do what she does. And if she's happy, my life a lot easier. So I'll just kick that to her and let her decide what she wants to do.
Our first interview with Josh Schertz, and we already know you're a very smart man.
Exactly. Say married 20 years by accident. So, that's.
Hey, Josh, thanks so much for the time. We appreciate it. Good luck. I'm looking forward to meeting you face to face, and congratulations, and have a great career here in St. Louis.
I look forward to meeting you guys. Take care. Have a great day.
Thank you. That's Josh Schertz. He is the new head basketball coach at St. Louis University. And they got things going. The Women's NIT Championship. Congratulations to Rebecca Tillett and the women's team, and now the men's team with Josh Schertz. And he says all the right things.
He really does. I'm very excited to see what he's going to be able to bring to this Billikens program, because I liked everything I saw at Indiana State.
If he leaves Indiana State, and it sounds like that he had multiple options to go other places, I'm assuming he felt pretty assured that the NIL situation is going to be better with SLU, which it needs to be. Facilities are upper echelon. They really are. I mean, for Division I basketball, they're outstanding. So that's not an issue. The issue will be NIL to help him recruit and getting the boosters behind him.
Yeah, and I think he's got the big boosters behind him.
Yes, he does.
He's in pretty good shape. Dan, Brooke, Randy, coming up, the Blues back in action tomorrow night against the Blackhawks. We're going to talk to the TV voice of the Blues, John Kelly, next on 101 ESPN. I want you to know about mentality, because you can compete like you did when you were younger. Your career is a competition. You want to be mentally sharp when you go to work every morning. And if you're fatigued right now as you're driving into work, it could be a problem with low T, because low T affects every single guy. That's where mentality comes in. Go to lowtusa.com and get started with mentality. Set up an appointment at one of their clinics in Chesterfield or South County. And what they're going to do is find out where your testosterone testosterone level is. And then Mentality has an FDA-approved testosterone treatment that will restore your energy and restore your mental acuity and sharpness and get you back to being the person that you were when you were younger, so you aren't worn out in the morning, so that you aren't feeling down or fatigued right when you wake up in the morning. And Mentality is going to work with your insurance company to make sure that you pay the lowest out-of-pocket expenses possible. It's Mentality. They can work wonders for you. They have for thousands of guys in St. Louis, and it's easy to do. Just go to lowtusa.com to get started and tell them Randy sent you.
Talking everything St. Louis Blues as we head into the Blues Booth. Presented by Boardwalk Hardwood Floors, a proud partner of your St. Louis Blues. Find your perfect new floor at our 4 convenient locations and online at boardwalkhardwood.com.
The Blues have their last homestand of the regular season starting tomorrow night against the Blackhawks, and then the Hurricanes are in town and the Kraken before the Blues visit Dallas for their final regular season game 1 week from tomorrow night. The TV voice of the Blues, John Kelly, joins us this morning here on the opening drive. JK, good morning. How you doing?
Doing well, Randy. How are you?
Good. Hey, what were your impressions of the Blues over the course of the weekend, playing so many of the kids, whether by choice or out of necessity? How did you like seeing the kids?
Well, I did. I think it's a good decision, and I think it's also a good decision to play, a kid with a veteran, and that's what they did. They didn't put a line together of just 3 young players. So obviously, Bolduc had a really nice goal in Anaheim on Sunday night, and scoring 11 seconds in, a good shot. And we've only seen him now for 20 games or so, and it's pretty apparent that he has really good hands and has a good shot. And, hopefully can be a goal scorer for this team for many years to come. And I've liked Matthew Kessel from day one, a really good defending player. Matthew has good size and has good one-on-one skills and also can shoot the puck well. So I think it's a matter of time before he finds more offense, and obviously scored his first NHL goal the other night. And, Zach Dean's a player that they've had on left wing a little bit the last couple of games. He's a natural center iceman, but the one thing that sticks out is he has good speed and has pretty good size. So, you haven't really seen a whole lot of him yet. But I think overall, I think the kids have passed with flying colors so far.
Well, JK, the Blues showing some fight this weekend. I'm talking about literal fights here because you saw some scraps going on this weekend with Colton Parayko, surprisingly, against former Blue Klim Kostin. And then also you had Jordan Binnington with a little scrap. What did you think of that?
Well, as far as the one with Parayko, good on Colton Parayko to step up, and also Justin Falk for fighting Luke Cunnin, the St. Louis kid, after his hit on Jake Neighbors. So you got to stick up for each other, and sometimes teams don't do enough of that, and I'm really happy the Blues did that. And as far as Binnington is concerned, the guy lives on the edge. That's all I'll say, because he doesn't pick on little players. He punches Ross Johnston, probably the biggest player on the Ducks, and lands a really good left. So he, like I said, he doesn't pick his spots. He's a competitive guy. And, I don't think he liked the high stick that Tucker got from Johnston, and good on him for sticking up for his teammate.
John, you mentioned Matthew Kessel, and I love what I've seen out of him and his growth. Obviously, the growth of Jake Neighbors has been significant for this team. So let's advance this a little bit with that growth and how it fits into next season. What do you think about those two and where they may fit going into 24-25?
Well, obviously, you hope that, they can pick up where they left off. And, but it's a tough league, Dan, as you know. I mean, Jake Neighbors, to me, is sort of the exception. It's his third year in the NHL, really first full year, and he's up to, 27 goals. So I think he is probably ahead of the metrics of where you thought he would be. So it's like I said, it's a tough league for young players to come in and establish themselves and dominate. But I think Kessel is a guy that, he played a little bit last year at the end of the season, and now he gets a crack. He was in the minors for a little bit this year. But to me, there's no question that Matthew can come in next year and lock down a spot on defense, whether it's the fifth or sixth spot or whatever, maybe more, I don't know. But there's no question that Matthew and Jake in particular are going to have long careers with St. Louis.
Well, Thomas had one of the best games for him for the season this past Sunday, and he snapped a 9-game goal drought. What did you see for him in that game, and also just this season for him overall? It's a career year for him.
Yeah, career year now, over 80 points. I think we had a graphic the other night on the show that he is one of only 2 Blues, including Tarasenko, that's hit the 80-point marks, in the last 20 years or so. So, points are hard to come by in today's NHL. It's not like the old days when, the Brett Hulls of the world were scoring 86 goals and, Gretzky would get 150 points or more every year. It's a harder league to score in right now. So I think Robert had lost his confidence a bit in the prior 2 weeks, not necessarily goal scoring wise, but he wasn't picking up the same number of points that he normally does. But as far as the game on Sunday, every time he was on the ice, the puck seemed to follow him around, and he had one of his best games of the season. So, he's had a great season. Obviously, it's too bad the Blues aren't going to make the playoffs unless something miraculous happens here down the stretch. But Robert obviously has had a good season. I might add also, Brooke, it's a good question, but it's also the first year that Robert's been the number one center iceman. In the past years, it's been Ryan O'Reilly. So that's a big add-on for Robert Thomas, that he's facing the other team's best defensive pair and their best checking center or their best center overall on a nightly basis. And that's a big deal. And I think Robert, for the most part, has handled that really well.
Well, and also, JK, to your point, an elevated leadership role for him where he's wearing the A full-time on his chest.
Well, exactly. And, I'm not sure, how much of a deal that is. Some players probably put pressure on themselves if they're a captain or an assistant captain to lead more, to play better. I'm not sure individually if that, affects Robert. But obviously he is one of the leaders. And if the Blues are going to become a better team down the road and hopefully a playoff team, then he's got to be a big part of that, and he's got to be a big leader.
JK, you were outstanding on the radio filling in for Curbs the other day. I really enjoyed it. I felt like I was listening to your dad again, which was amazing with the inflection and the voice and the things that you were able to do. I'm just curious, when you're on the radio, how much of your dad's influence is there, and did you think about him as you were doing that game?
Well, not really, Dan. I did radio for a number of years in the American League, and then, did some radio with St. Louis and even some in Tampa Bay when I went to there in 1992. It took me a period or so to sort of get in the swing because obviously, Dan, as you know, on radio, you have to be a lot more descriptive. But the one thing that my father always taught me was to be very descriptive on radio. Right wing, near corner, always identify the player and the team. So that's the one thing that I try to get across the nuts and bolts of radio broadcasting, is to be as descriptive as possible. And I really enjoyed working. I've always enjoyed working with Joey Vitale. He's a great analyst, great enthusiasm. And the game we did in Nashville last week, even though the Blues lost, it was one of the better 5-on-5 games of the year. and it was a very entertaining hockey game. So I had a lot of fun doing it.
Well, it was a great job. Yep. Really was.
Hey, JK, before we let you go, I want to ask you about another team, and you mentioned it'd take a miracle for the Blues to make the playoffs. And Vegas has a chance to be there as the A seed. They got Thomas Hertl finally going for them last night. He had an assist. Petro is still in and out with the illness, but if they have those guys back, Hertl and Petro, and they've got their complement of players, and apparently they're going to get Mark Stone perhaps back for the playoffs too, could you see the A seed Knights making a run at another cup here?
Absolutely. I think on paper, if they're healthy, and I think that's a big question mark, Randy, because you mentioned Mark Stone. He has a lacerated spleen, I believe it is. And, Petro's been in and out of the lineup the last couple of weeks. I'm not sure exactly what he's dealing with. But if you look at that defense that they have with Theodore, Martinez, Trangelo, Hannafin, the player they got from Calgary, and Nick Hague's a big defenseman, and that's the best defense in hockey. And they have a good goaltender in Aiden Hill, who another guy that's been hurt in the last month or so. So I think if they can get healthy and put it all together, they could go on a roll. But we know this, that even though you start the playoffs, you can't just flip a switch in game one and all of a sudden, well, here's our team and we're going to go and we're going to have all kinds of momentum. It's not that easy. It might take a while for that team to find momentum. And in a best-of-7 series, you might not find it at all, and you could find yourself getting knocked out. But if they do get on a roll and get by that first round and get healthy, I think, to me, they're as good as any team in the NHL.
John Kelly, always good to hear your voice. It'll be good to have you back with the Blues on Bally tomorrow, Blues and Blackhawks, and we will be tuned in.
Okay, Randy, thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir. That's John Kelly, TV voice of the Blues and sometimes radio voice of the Blues here on 101 ESPN.
He scores!
He's a great broadcaster.
I love it. It was great.
Coming up next, we've got the fight for you, and we need a fighter. All you need to do is text in to the Air Comfort Service. Text line 314-399-9646, 314-399-YO-HO. Text in your name and the word fight, and maybe you will fight me next on 101 ESPN. If you want an extraordinary lunch today, try one of my favorite places. Actually, it's actually my favorite place. It's the Fenton Bar and Grill on Rudder Road in Fenton. To get there, all you need to do is go to the soccer park and follow Rudder Road to the Fenton Bar and Grill. And when you walk in, you'll smell those exquisite trash wings, the best trash wings in town. Try those with their signature golden sauce or some ranch, and you will love what you have with their signature sauce and those unbelievable trashed wings at the Fenton Bar and Grill. And when you order sandwiches, you're going to have fantastic ones. You can try their BLT piled high with slices of their delicious house bacon on Texas toast with fresh lettuce and tomato. Their Reuben sandwich is absolutely fantastic, and they have some of the best burgers in town at the Fenton Bar and Grill, too. And they have the best servers. Alicia will be there tomorrow and throughout the rest of the week. Stop by and say hi to Megan and Kelly and the gang, and you'll have a great time at the Fenton Bar and Grill. And on a day like today, you might as well sit on the best patio in town. It's the Fenton Bar and Grill. Learn more at FentonBarandGrill.com. And when you stop by, tell them Randy sent you.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The Cardinals yesterday fall to the Phillies 5-3. Game 2 is tonight, 6:45. First pitch, it'll be Zach Wheeler, the righty for the Phillies. He's 0-1 on the season, but he does have a .75 ERA and a .75 whip. He will face off against Sonny Gray, making his Cardinals debut. He will be on a 65-pitch count. Speaking of the Phillies starter Aaron Nola will join the show coming up later on at 9:30. And if you missed any of the interviews today, you can catch them always on 101ESPN.com on the Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers podcasts. That is your Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Welcome to the fight. In the red corner, Average Joe Listener. And in the blue corner, the undisputed king of morning drive. Please welcome Randy Carricker.
Welcome back to the opening drive. Brooke, Dan, Rocc here, and it is time for the fight. And our fighter today is Jeff. Jeff, how are you doing?
Doing well, Brooke. How about yourself?
Oh, we're doing great. Is this your first time facing Randy in the fight? Jeff.
Oh, come on.
Jeff, no.
Jeff, are you with us? Come on, Jeff.
Are you with us?
I am, yes. Hello?
Oh, yeah, we
Hi.
got you now. We got you.
Good.
Okay.
Can you hear us fully, Jeff?
I can, yes.
Okay, perfect. We lost you for a second. We got really sad and scared, but we're glad you're back. Are you ready for question one?
I am, yes. As ready as I'll get out.
Okay. How many times did the St. Louis Hawks play the Celtics in the NBA Finals? Was it 2 times, 3 times, or 4 times?
I'm going to go with 4.
Is that your final answer, Jeff? Okay.
It is.
All right.
One out the hit.
Okay, question 2. There are only 4 QBs to be drafted top 5 and never play it down for the team that drafted them. We all know about Elway, Manning, and Rivers, but which AFC team drafted Jim Everett 3rd overall before having to ship him off to the Rams? Was it the Oilers, the Chargers, or the Patriots?
I have no clue here. I'm going to go with the Patriots. Final answer.
All right, question 3.
Question 3. There have only been 6 offenses in NFL history to churn out a duo of 100-catch receivers. When the Steelers did it most recently in 2018, who paired with Antonio Brown to catch 100 passes? Was it Chase Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster, or Emmanuel Sanders?
It was Juju Smith-Schuster. Final answer.
Since UCLA's run, this is question 4. Since UCLA's run in the 1970s, only 3 teams have repeated as champs. UConn last night, Florida 15 years ago, and which program in the 90s? Was it Kentucky?
It was Duke. Final answer.
Oh, boy. Quickly to the gun. I love it. And we're going to bring in Randy. Rocc is on his way to open the door and let Randy in. We'll have to see if Randy is having his grapes.
Oh, the grapes are eaten.
Come on in, Randy. And Randy?
Yes, sir.
We want you to say good morning to your fighter, and that would be Jeff.
Jeff, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, Randy. How about yourself?
Doing great. Thanks for listening. Thanks for playing. We do appreciate it.
Absolutely. Glad to be part of the show this morning.
Cool. Thanks.
All right, ready for question number 1, Randy?
Ready?
How many times did the St. Louis Hawks play the Celtics in the NBA Finals?
I think 2. Go with 2.
Well, that was quick.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Okay. You ready for question 2?
Yes, sir.
All right. There are only 4 QBs to be drafted top 5 and never play it down for the team that drafted them. We all know about Elway, Manning, and Rivers. But which AFC team drafted Jim Everett 3rd overall before having to ship him off to the Rams?
We travel up and down the field. We're always in control. When you say Houston Oilers, you're talking Super Bowl, because we're the
Houston Oilers.
Houston Oilers.
I guess that's your answer.
Yeah, final answer.
Unless you're going to guess somebody else.
Yeah, final answer.
That would be a surprise, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
Question 3. There have only been 6 offenses in NFL history to churn out a duo of 100-catch receivers. When the Steelers did it most recently in 2018, who paired with Antonio Brown to catch 100 passes?
2018 caught 100 passes, huh? For the Steelers. I have a name in my mind. I don't know if he was there that recently, but I will use the lifeline to see if I can hear that name.
Ooh, okay.
2018.
2018.
Not
Paired with
Hines Ward.
Antonio Brown. Okay. Chase Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster, or Emmanuel Sanders?
Ooh, okay. I am going to go 2018. I'm going to go with Emmanuel Sanders.
Final answer?
Yes, sir.
And question 4. Since UCLA's run in the 1970s, only 3 teams have repeated as champs. UConn last night, Florida 15 years ago, and which program in the 90s?
I think it was Duke, the Blue Devils. At least I know Coach Krzyzewski won back-to-back, and I assume it was Duke because he won them back-to-back.
It wasn't his powerhouse at Army. All right. Just like Mr. Krzyzewski a couple times, we have a winner in today's fight. Was it Jeff who took down Megamind, or does Megamind roll on with another victory? Ring that bell.
The winner and new champion of the fight, Average Joe Listener.
The fight is presented by Golf Discount of St. Louis, with the most experienced club fitters in town. Why shop anywhere else?
Congratulations, Jeff. You took down Randy Carricker 3-2 in today's fight. Did we lose you again?
Good job.
I think I hear.
No, I'm here.
I hear
Wow.
you. There you go. Congratulations, Jeff.
I'm
There you
just,
go.
I guess I'm just a little shocked, I guess.
There you go. Let's go through the questions and answers.
You ain't the only one.
How many times did the St. Louis Hawks play the Celtics in the NBA Finals? It was actually 4 times, 57, 58, 60, and 61. Celtics, of course, going 3-1 against the Hawks across those 4 appearances. Only 4 quarterbacks to be drafted top 5 and never play a down for the team that drafted them. Elway, Manning, Rivers, and Jim Everett, who was drafted 3rd overall by the Oilers for a contract dispute, led him to getting shipped off to the Rams. There have only been 6 offenses in NFL history to churn out a duo of 100-catch receivers. When the Steelers did it most recently in 2018, it was Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster who did it there. Emmanuel Sanders did do it with Demaryius Thomas in Denver with Peyton Manning. And since UCLA's run in the 70s, only 3 teams have repeated as champs. UConn last night, Florida 15 years ago, and it was in fact Duke in the early 90s, 91 and 92. Kentucky, by the way, did win 2 out of 3 in the late 90s, so watch out. People might try to trick you on that one. So Jeff wins this fight with a score of 3-2. Congratulations, Jeff. We will talk to you tomorrow.
Thank you. Looking forward to speaking to you guys then.
Thanks, Jeff. Love you, Blue. Can you guys do the Oilers song again?
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
We travel
Dan's
up and
voice
down
was
the field. We're
beautiful.
always in control. When you say Houston Oilers, you're talking Super Bowl, because we're the Houston Oilers. Houston Oilers. Houston Oilers number 1. Dun, 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 dun. Houston Oilers. There we go.
How did we get a
old, Randy.
trombone in
Yeah.
here?
That was great. That was awesome, Dan. That was impressive.
Coming up here on 101 ESPN, the Cardinals had their worst TV ratings for a home opener in more than 20 years. If you didn't watch, why? That's next on 101 ESPN.
Baseball season in here, and here's the best way to play while you watch your Cardinals games. It's Underdog Fantasy's Pick'em product, right now active in Missouri, Pick'em Champions. Pick 2 to 5 players from at least 2 different teams, select higher or lower on the player stat projections, pick your entry fee, and you're going to be entered in alongside a game alongside other underdogs. You hit your picks, you're walking away with your winnings. Let's build a little bit of an entry today for the Cardinals game. We're going to keep it small because I want you to use your boost later on to add in another pick later, so we're going to leave room to build on this entry. So right now, just off the bat, we're going to go higher than 18.5 pitching outs for Zach Wheeler's question is there. Is he going to go longer than 6 innings pitched? And then Sonny Gray, we're going to go lower than 4.5 strikeouts. Those are both scorchers. One's a little bit down, one's a little bit up. We're still going to be about 3.3x our original entry there. So again, get that in now, and then go to Underdog Fantasy, where it's super easy to play and even easier to get started. Go to the easy-to-use mobile app or to UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with the promo code ROCC. Underdog's going to match your first deposit up to $100. Plus, they're going to give you a mystery special pick to use on your first pick'em entry. Add that in, take your entry up to 3 different entries, and you're going to increase the amount that you can win. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code ROCC to get your first deposit of $10 or more, up to $100 matched, plus that special pick. Must be 18 plus and present at a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Consider your play call. Winner gambler. Visit www.ncbgambling.org.
Cardinals had their lowest TV ratings for a home opener in 23 years. Now, granted, the Cardinals came home 3-4, and they didn't have a good year last year. But I kind of thought that there would be a little bit higher viewership for the home opener than they had. For a 3 o'clock game, it was pretty dramatically low on Thursday. And we welcome your text, by the way. If you didn't watch, we'd like to know why. 314-399-9646. Yo, 314-399. Yo. Sorry about that. I didn't know we were going to do it. Nobody was participating.
No, I was waiting.
Okay, good.
It's very premature.
So I'm just surprised. We are allegedly the best baseball town in America. Maybe we're the best winning baseball town in America.
Yeah, I think that maybe there's a lot of things. There's one, the factor of there's some fans who are probably in wait and see mode with the Cardinals after a 91-loss season, and maybe they want to wait to just see how things turn out. But we keep getting this text, this one from the 636, and I'm noticing this over and over again. The home opener was the MLB free game of the day, but was blacked out because I live in St. Louis. I can't afford Bally. I watch the other streaming services, but none of them cover the Cards games. I just listen on the radio.
I'm with you. I think it's a wait-and-see approach with this team after a 91-loss season and the manner in which they lost. I would say the other part of this, too, is there a featured player that you would tune in to watch? You know, when you had Albert Pujols, Yadier Molina, there's been a Hall of Famer dating back to like 80 years on every single team, and maybe there is with this team, with Arenado and Goldie, but is there that signature move that made you want to watch? Like, I think more people knowing that Sonny Gray is making the start tonight will tune in, as opposed to watching Miles Michaelis yesterday. But it's the Marlins. Is there a featured player on the Marlins that you want to watch? Not necessarily. So I think those are parts of it. But it's the manner in which last year they lost, and I think a lot of fans will take a wait-and-see approach. And you know what cures out all this stuff? Just win. You win, and a lot of people are going to tune in.
Winning solves everything. By the way, the opener seen in 7.5% of homes in the market. The game, including pregame, was seen in an average of 91,000 households and viewed by 167,000 people. Last year's home opener averaged 133,000 households as opposed to 91,000, and 236,000 viewers as opposed to 167,000. So a substantial drop. And I think there's a lot of good reasons, but I do think that the cord cutting and the inability is of people to get Bally, or the lack of desire to get Bally on the part of people, does play a huge role in this.
I think there's confusion too on where to find it.
Yes.
What kind of cable system you have, how you take in your TV, if you take it in on an app, if you take it in with streaming. I just think that there's a lot of confusion for people as to where to find it.
I'm a streaming person, so I've cut the cord. I'm one of those people that has done that. But at the same time, it does get really confusing because I pay for multiple different subscriptions. And sometimes I'm like, okay, wait, where is this? And even sometimes when you pay for it, you can be blacked out. This is something that Major League Baseball in general needs to work on. And we had Bill DeWitt III on last week, and he spoke about that. He spoke about the RSN deals and things that we're seeing in the future with TV deals. And it sounds like he understands that this is the way that things are going, that the people want access. They don't want to be blacked out. If you're talking about growing the game of baseball and not just a regional aspect, but a national aspect, then it needs to be available to everyone.
And your product has to be attractive enough so that people are willing to pay to watch it, because it's not going to come free. And if you want a product, you have to pay for it, but your product has to be good enough so that people want to pay for it.
And think about, if you're in Iowa or you're in parts of Illinois, you cannot get the games. You're blacked out. It's the number one problem right now that I see with baseball is accessibility for fans to watch the games. But going back to the original point that you just made, Randy, is just win. You know, if you win, people will be more interested and people will find a way to find the games.
Here's a text from the 314. Cardinals need to sell their streaming rights. Bally isn't available in enough streaming apps. That's not a Cardinal issue. That's an MLB issue. MLB won't allow Bally. They don't have it in their deal to have the Cardinals stream on the Bally standalone app. For whatever reason, they do in Kansas City. The Royals are on the standalone app, but here in St. Louis, Major League Baseball didn't allow that for the Cardinals. So this is not the Cardinals negotiating this deal. This is Major League Baseball wanting to control all of their streaming. And one of the problems that they'll have is that there's 8 years left on this Bally deal. So that's when either they're going to have to give Bally permission to stream, or they're going to be stuck with this same situation for the next 8 years.
And that's what I was saying, is that we're seeing a major change in Major League Baseball where they know that this is something they have to address soon. They are already making rules changes to engage a younger audience. You also have to make it accessible to all the different audiences, and you have to get rid of blackouts. So even though you mentioned the 8-year contract, this is something, you guys have seen it. You guys have been in this business for a long time. Things are rapidly changing on how people consume sports, and you have to go with the change rather than being reactive after the fact.
It's an older sport, too. And so I think it becomes more difficult for older fans to figure out exactly where to go. The younger fans, they'll figure it out in 2 seconds.
I still have a hard time, Dan.
Yeah.
it's confusing.
It's tough.
Yeah.
I also think, just to our one of my original points, is there a singular player that you will tune in and watch? And now Pujols is an outlier a couple years ago coming back to St. Louis. But Yachty, you know, when you had Matt Holliday, would you tune in to see him? Nolan Arenado's first game as a Cardinal. You know, some of those things would really, I think, motivate fans to go watch and to take in that opening day.
I think that's a very fair point, because that's what you would tune in to see. Now, today we get to see Sonny Gray. You spent all that money during the offseason to get him, so I think a lot of people will tune in to see that. Hopefully he pitches well. But even with big names like Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt, because of what they haven't been able to do here recently, we talked about some of their struggles at the plate. I think that that's something that maybe people don't see as exciting. Either way, I think that offense drives a lot of what people want to watch.
Absolutely.
91-loss season, wait-and-see approach. And the manner in which they lost last year. I just think that's a big, huge factor in what's going on.
From the 314, the MLS is the model that all sports leagues are going to follow. That's the reason that the Pac-12 died, is because they were trying to follow the MLS model. I'm not so sure that that's the case. I think that people are going to go where the most money is. And, well, not the NFL, but the NFL will still get the most money from free TV. But if you're getting let's use Major League Baseball as an example, and the Cardinals as a specific example. The Cardinals would rather get that check written to them by Bally, who owns their rights, rather than gamble that they have to sell their own advertising. Even though the risk-reward, the reward is probably way better for selling your own, it's not worth the risk because they know that they're going to get a check from Bally for those rights every year.
Yeah, that's number one. I mean, it's just you put your games out on the air and all of a sudden there's millions of dollars going in your pocket, and there is a risk that any of these teams run with a factor be selling advertising, but also can I get the subscriptions and how I do it to get into the subs or to have people buy my app? You know, those are all risks that you take too if you're the Cardinals.
I think the only thing I would worry about if you follow the MLS Apple TV model with baseball specifically is because it is so regional that you need those specific personalities for each team. So the way that they have it set up with MLS is that you have kind of more of like a national overreach and then certain guys who are in a rotation that cover the games. And so it's not necessarily having that local flavor of someone covering your team. That's my big issue with it. I don't want that to happen for Major League Baseball because I don't think it necessarily helps.
And as Dan said, the average MLB fan is 57 years old. The average MLS fan is 40 years old. So that every 47-year-old fan for Major League Baseball, there's a 67-year-old fan. Is that 67-year-old fan going to go and download the Apple app and pay for Apple TV so that they can watch their team every night? No, I think that older people in general are going to keep paying for cable and go and watch the channel, whether it's DirecTV or Charter that it's on. Not everybody is cutting the cord. And I think the major portion of baseball fans still has cable.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
Me too.
I have streaming and I got a little cable. I got a little bit of both because I wanted to see certain things that I can't on one and I can't see it on the other. So I consume a lot of TV, and that's one of the ways. I consume a ton of sports, so that's one of the ways that I do it.
And I think baseball understands that. And by the way, the Cardinals are a 30% owner, are they not, of Bally Sports? So that's going to be part of this process too.
This is a very fair point from the 636. Apple does give you the option to listen to the local broadcast as well.
Yeah,
you can listen on the radio anywhere you're at, and you can do that at home. So, yeah, that's something that you can do.
Yep. It's going to be interesting to see long-term, first half of this season, how the ratings play out for the Cardinals, and they better be competitive.
And the other thing is, just taking this a little bit further down the road, the Blues. What happens after the baseball season, and do the Cardinals partner with the Blues? More than likely, you're going to need a partner to do something like this, and we're not sure what's going to happen after the baseball season is done.
But I do think with the Amazon investment, I don't think Bally's going anywhere. I think Bally is going to be here for the Cardinals and the Blues, and as long as they keep paying the rights fees, that contract is in place.
The thing is streaming's here to stay, and it's only growing more and more, so you have to adapt to the changes that are here right now.
And that's the biggest thing, is that if you're the Cardinals, and Bill DeWitt mentioned this, you need to serve multiple masters in terms of your consumers. You need to serve the older fans that have cable and then those that have cut the cord, and you have to provide a better and more accessible streaming option than they have provided.
Don't you guys think, though, if this team was coming off a playoff-type run, that there'd be just a ton more interest?
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt about it.
I think that's the number one thing. People would find a way to get the games if the team was more competitive a year ago. I mean, that was a tough year, and people were upset. If you win, people will find a way to find the games.
By the way, I don't know what happened in 2001. That was the previous low. But that was coming off of a great year where they went to the NLCS and they had bounced back because they'd missed the playoffs in 97, 98, 99, go to the playoffs in 2000. Then the 01 home opener gets the lowest ratings until the other day.
I'm thinking that maybe there was more games that were starting to transition to cable at that time, and it wasn't as much free TV.
Oh, that makes sense.
Because some of those games in home openers were on free TV.
Great point.
Yeah.
From the 314, do you think there's any way the Cardinals start their own network and make that a streaming channel? And we discussed that, but do you worry about how that would also affect their spending when it comes to their own team?
Yeah, but if they sell a lot, then they can spend a lot. But it's all about how much you can get out of it in this market. How are you going to oversaturate your market by trying to get advertisers to advertise?
Padres are finding a way to do it. Arizona's finding a way to do it. And then after this year, we're going to see a ton of teams find a way to do this.
Right. So, it will change the way the Cardinals spend, and it might they're going to have to come up with a lot of long-term contracts, but they've got a lot of advertisers. What you do now, if you have that scenario that you're talking about, Brooke, is you have your salespeople go in and say, okay, you can be on a board in the outfield, you can be on a board right outside the stadium, you can be on radio, you can be on TV, and we'll also do a giveaway with you. So it'll be a broad-based partnership that the club will do with their business partners. That's Dan, that's Brooke, I'm Randy. Coming up, we've got the Rush Hour Reset on 101 ESPN.
Hey, it's Danny Mack for Stewart's American Mortgage on this Tuesday morning. If you're someone who is looking to purchase a home or refinance, or if you're looking to consolidate some of that ugly credit card debt, maybe you don't know what exactly direction to go to in any of these things, let me make it easy for you. Call Stewie from Stewart's American Mortgage. He will help you every step of the way. If it's a new home you're looking to purchase, he'll get you to the closing table fast. How fast? Try 10 days, and he'll get you the best interest rate possible. He also has the bagel loan, and that can help you out too. So what is the bagel loan? If you borrow $200,000 or more, there's no underwriting fees, no appraisal fees, no title fees, no lender fees, no closing costs. He has helped out a lot of our 101 ESPN listeners. You hear Jamie talk about it. You hear Anthony talk about it. I'm telling you about it as well. Stewart is your guy. He makes it easy. Any questions on the rates, industry, the trends, give Stewart a call. Call him directly. Personal cell phone. He'll either answer or obviously respond to your text. 314-324-4440, 314-324-4440, or you can Google the bagel loan.
NMLS number 226715.
biggest sports stories of the day on the opening drive with a Rush Hour Reset.
It is 9:09 in St. Louis. Time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. The Cardinals are back in action tonight at the ballpark, and Sonny Gray will make his season debut for the Redbirds. He'll be opposed by Philadelphia's Zach Wheeler, and we'll have that action for you on Bally. You'll see that action on Bally tonight at 7 o'clock. As a matter of fact, at the bottom of this hour, we're going to talk to Phillies Righthander Aaron Nola, who gets to start in tomorrow's game for Philadelphia. The Cardinals lost last night by a score of 5-3 in 10 innings after the Cardinals tied it in the ninth. Philadelphia scoring a couple in the 10th to win it.
You need run support for Miles Mikolas. He was able to go 6 2/3, and he was able to limit the Phillies, who are a very potent offense, to just 2 runs, but you need run support. We talked about this, but the heart of the Cardinals order, Goldschmidt, Gorman, and Arenado, they combined for 2 for 15 yesterday with 7 strikeouts, including back-to-back strikeouts to end the game in the 10th inning. That's an alarming trend that you're starting to see there.
Yeah, part of the run support is getting runners home and runners in scoring position. They go 2 for 12. They left 8 men on. Now, going back to Goldschmidt, since opening day, it's going the wrong direction. He's got 1 extra base hit, 1 for 5 last night. And I thought the key moment in the game that will be overlooked was him up in the 3rd inning, runner at 3rd, less than 2 outs, and he strikes out. If you get that run home, it just makes a difference in what was a very tight game. Couple of positives, though. Mason Wynn kept the Cardinals in the game defensively, had the huge hit late to tie the game up. And Matthew Liberatore, I keep harping on this, but he's starting to get himself in a position where they're using him in key spots, and he went an inning and 2/3, sitting at 94, 96, and looks good. I love him in the bullpen, and I think that's where he's going to stay.
I think that's where he needs to stay. It's very Andrew Miller-esque, as you guys said earlier. And look, I like that the Cardinals gave him a chance, another chance of being a starter, but where he needs to be is the bullpen. That is where he's most serviceable, and also where he looks, honestly, more comfortable.
Going back to Goldie and Arenado, this club right now is 22nd in slugging percentage. Right or wrong, a lot of that falls on their shoulders. Totally. They have to be better.
Yeah.
Have to be better.
Yep. And Ryan Helsley, granted, he was introduced into the game with the ghost runner, but he allows a couple of runs on 1 hit. He did walk 1 and took the loss last night as the Cardinals fell by a score of 5-3. UConn wins their 2nd consecutive basketball national championship, 75-60 over Purdue. They were dominant. They were dominant throughout the tournament, and they'll have a chance to win a 3rd in a row. Dan Hurley says, hey, I'm going to stay here and go for the dynasty. He was literally asked about the Kentucky job, and he laughed it off, and he said, no, I'm going to be here, and I want to go for 3 in a row.
Isn't that amazing? You win the national championship, and within 20 minutes, you're asked about another job. It was a dominant performance, not only last night, but in this tournament. The average margin of victory was 23 points. They had a plus 140 point differential. Thought the key was a 5-minute stretch, second half. The lead went from 6 to 11, and Zach Edey went quiet. They doubled him. He had a rough stretch. All of a sudden, UConn was able to stretch that lead. If Purdue was going to win that game, they needed more than just Zach Edey, and they didn't get that from the rest of their roster.
And it felt like we knew this was going to be the outcome. Dan, you called it. It was the UConn Invitational, so we were just waiting until the end there, and UConn did exactly what you expected. But going back to Dan Hurley, Kentucky would be absolutely nuts. Even though he's saying that he's not going anywhere, Kentucky would be absolutely nuts if they didn't do their due diligence and gave him a phone call and said, hey, what will it take to get you over here?
Yeah, and they would be nuts to not make the phone call. Here's the quote from Hurley after he was asked about going to Kentucky. He said, oh, my God, Kentucky or anywhere else that's going to take my wife further from New Jersey? I mean, we just went to Rhode Island, which I had to drag her to, and then to Connecticut. I got her closer. And now further, I can't afford a divorce right now, too. I just got started making money.
And he's going to make a lot of it now.
He is. They're already paying him $5, and their athletic director said, yeah, we're going to talk soon and give him another. They gave him a new contract last year, and they'll give him a new contract this year, too.
How do you not? Back-to-back national titles. and John Calipari going to Arkansas, so vacancy in Kentucky, and that's going to be something to follow in college basketball. Some of the biggest names in the sport are being talked about this morning already for the Kentucky Wildcat job.
Did you see that Calipari yesterday was being hunted down outside of his home in Kentucky? He was just walking his dog.
That was pretty fun.
And it was a cute little dog, and he even had a little cart for it, basically. Well, not a cart. What was the best way to describe it?
It was a stroller.
It was a little stroller. Yeah. I was kind of trying to find a different name for it, but yes, it was a little doggy stroller, and he was being hounded by some of the different media figures saying, hey, are you leaving? And he's like, I'm not talking about this right now, but at this point, he is leaving. I would be interested to see who takes that job, because either way, I know that it seems like on the Kentucky fan side, they were soured by him. They were ready for him to go. They might regret him leaving, considering everything that he's done for that program.
58 NBA picks in his career. Number 1 class 8 times, number 2 class 6 times. So he gets in talent.
Yeah.
I just wonder if they made the call to Rick Pitino and say, come on back to Kentucky. And to your point, Randy, I think it's really valid. Then maybe it gives a runway for Richard Pitino, his son, to be a coach at Kentucky. Just something to think about.
It's amazing that something could upstage the championship game in college basketball, and John Calipari did.
Yeah. Yes.
There you have it. That's our Rush Hour Reset on 101 ESPN. Coming up, Sonny Gray makes his first Cardinal start tonight. What should we reasonably expect? That's coming your way on 101 ESPN.
It's time for a DraftKings at Casino Queen Redbird report on 101 ESPN.
Brooke Grimsley here for your Redbird report. In the series opener against the Phillies, the Cardinals making it interesting towards the end, but the Phillies scored twice in the 10th, leading to them winning 5-3. Miles Michaelis with his second quality start of the season, limiting the Phillies to just 2 runs over 6 2/3 innings of work. As for the highlights at the plate, Ivan Herrera hit his second career home run in the 7th inning. Mason Wynn going 2 for 4 with an RBI and game-tying single with 2 outs in the 9th inning. Today, it will be Sonny Gray to make his Cardinals debut after starting the season on the injured list. He'll be on a pitch count of roughly 65 pitches. First pitch is at 6:45.
The Redbird Report is presented by DraftKings at Casino Queen. Play, stay, dine at DraftKings at Casino Queen.
Hey everyone, it's Brooke here, and this year we decided it was time to make a major upgrade to our home by updating our bathroom. We have this house in U City. It's over 100 years old, and we love it. We love all the old charm that it has, but we don't exactly love our main bathroom. So we decided to reach out to one of our great sponsors here of 101 ESPN, and that is E&B Granite. E&B Granite's team came to our house for a free consultation, and they came up with a vision of how to just really transform our bathroom. My favorite part of working with E&B Granite was stopping stopping by their showroom to explore their large selection of in-stock custom countertops, all their different cabinet options. It was just so much fun picking out the new colors for our bathroom. Jen was the one who has been working with us, and she has just been fantastic. She came up with so many great ideas that fit within our budget. And that's what they've been doing there at E&B Granite for over 20 years. They've been turning visions into realities. So go and schedule your free consultation by calling 314-645-9300 or go online at embgranite.com or stop by their showroom today and mention that I sent you.
The Cardinals' big offseason free agent acquisition, Sonny Gray, will make his first Redbird start tonight against Philadelphia. Gray, of course, second in the American League Cy Young voting last year. He suffered a strained hamstring in his second start of spring training and has worked his way back without a rehab start in Memphis or for Springfield. He is going to start tonight, limited to, Brooke, 65 pitches, right?
Roughly 65 pitches is what Ollie Marmol said.
So what should we expect from Sonny Gray tonight?
I have no idea. I really don't know what to expect because we didn't see him, obviously, a lot in spring training. I think the interesting aspect of the game tonight will be the approach early by the Phillies. Don't swing early. Get the pitch count up and get them out of there. And they know whether they came out and said it's 65 pitches or not. They knew it was going to be limited anyway. So their approach early on in the game will be something to watch because you're just not going to be someone that goes up there, swings away early, I wouldn't think. I think they're going to want to get the pitch count up and get them out of there. It
just really concerns me because he didn't have an actual full spring training, what you would like to see for your starting pitcher, especially the guy that you spent all that money on during the offseason. He had one game that he started in, and it was very brief one because it was early on during spring training. And then when he went out for his second game is where he experienced that right hamstring injury, which of course led to him starting the season on the injured list. I would have just liked to have seen at least one rehab start for him because he just had a simulated game, and the plan was for him to have at least one rehab start in the minor leagues, but weather was an issue, and it seems like Sonny Gray was very anxious to get back. So how do you deal with that as an organization? Because it seems like the Cardinals were adamant about him having another rehab start, but it was Sonny Gray that really pushed the narrative further of, no, I'm going to go ahead and start here at the major league level.
I'm sure he wants to earn his money, and he wants to do it at the major league level, and probably, clearly, felt like a rehab start wouldn't do him any good. So if the Cardinals are going to acquiesce and be subservient to him, so be it.
Hold your breath, right?
Yeah, hopefully they win the game.
Yeah, if you're the Cardinals, I think you hold your breath a little bit, and you're anxious to see him. I think everybody is anxious to see what he can do. They saw him in spring training. They know his resume. But, again, I'm with you, Brooke. I would have loved to have seen one more rehab assignment, build up your pitching a little bit more in your pitch count. But, that's just not going to be the case, and we'll see what he's got tonight.
He did have some pretty efficient outings last year. In his first game last year for Minnesota against the Royals, 83 pitches in 5 innings. His second start, he went 7 innings and threw 98 pitches. Then his third start, he threw 78 pitches in 5. Fourth start, went 5 innings and threw 98. And then the other 2 starts in April for him last year, he threw 7 innings and 107 pitches and 6 innings and 95. So I would expect less than 5 innings tonight.
You think less than 5?
Yeah, I would think maybe you're looking at 15 innings. Hopefully you can get 15 pitches per inning and get 4 innings out of
Yeah, I was going 12 to 15.
Yeah.
If you can get 12 pitches per inning,
be great.
Oh, man, you're efficient. But I don't see that either. You're going to have some hits, probably a walk mixed in there. Cautionary tale was Blake Snell last night. Didn't really have a spring training. 3 innings pitched, 3 hits, walked 2, struck out 5 in 72 pitches. 72 pitches gave him 3 innings.
And we should note there was a lot of blowback about Kyle Gibson giving the Cardinals 6 innings and allowing 7 runs on Sunday. Well, Gibson 6 innings and then Michaelis 7 innings last night allows the Cardinals to have pretty much their full bullpen available tonight.
I was going to go there. And the other part, too, you have an open date on Thursday. So that gives you a little leeway and a little protection as you move forward with your bullpen.
Yeah, so hopefully they'll be able to utilize their bullpen to full effect tonight and maybe come away with a win against Zach Wheeler.
Yeah, well, that will be very tough. It will be a very tough matchup tonight. But here's the other thing, too, because somebody texted in this question is why are they publicly putting out there the pitch count for Sonny Gray, which will be roughly 65 pitches? There's many different reasons why. But do you think another aspect of this, too, is to make sure that Sonny Gray, who seems like a very competitive person, knows, well, you're going to make sure that you don't go past this point for your benefit?
Absolutely.
I think so. If you come out and publicly say something, Phillies know he's on a pitch count anyway, so that doesn't matter to me. But if you put a restriction on him to understand it's going to be 65, then I think the pitcher can handle it. But you know he's going to be saying, I'm okay.
Oh, yeah.
I'll go 70. I'll go 75. I can get 80. It's going to be incumbent on Ollie and Dusty Blake to say, no, you're not. This is how we're going to do it. We're cutting you off at this point, and that's the way it's going to be.
You didn't have a spring training, and you didn't want to do a rehab start. If you wanted to throw more pitches in your major league debut, maybe you should have gone and done a rehab start, buddy.
That's the way to look at it, is that we're keeping you on 65. But I guarantee I would be anxious to see him be pushed, but they're not going to do that.
No,
I wouldn't think.
$75 million.
No, especially, we just talked about all the elbow injuries. Please, no, we cannot have that happen. I know that was hamstring for him, but at this point, you can't lose Sonny Gray. Zach Thompson, by the way, he's taking his spot in the starting rotation. What happens with him? Is he going to be piggybacking?
I would say so. If Sonny stays in the rotation, then this would allow him to piggyback tonight and give you multiple innings. And that's another way to save your bullpen.
Yeah. Who do you think gets taken off the roster?
John King.
Oh, John. Yeah. Okay.
You forgot about him already, didn't you,
Yeah,
Randy?
we did. Yeah.
Because you can put Thompson in the bullpen and King would be the guy out.
Have another lefty.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes all the sense in the world. Coming up, we're going to talk to Philadelphia right-hander Aaron Nola. He will start tomorrow. He's also a key member of Big League Impact. Aaron Nola next on 101 ESPN. Hey, you thinking about selling your home? Well, I want to tell you that if you are even thinking about selling your home, there's only one agent in St. Louis to sell your home, and that's Gloria Liu with Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. You know, real estate agents are known for making big promises when trying to get your business, and you want an agent who's going to provide you with upfront written guarantees, an agent that'll pay you the difference in your home if it doesn't sell for that guaranteed price. You'd think it'd be impossible to find that agent, right? But it's not. Gloria Lou will take care of it. She has a promise that says it all. Your home sold, guaranteed realty, and she's mastered the home selling promise by guaranteeing upfront and in writing to sell your home at your agreed to price and time frame, or she'll buy it herself, and that's guaranteed. She has solutions for every kind of home seller. If you want a fast sale with no hassles, her multiple cash offer program is a great option to consider. No showings, no costly repairs, and you pick the closing date. You always get the highest cash offer to choose from in minutes with Gloria Lou. Give her a call at 314-325-6888, 314-325-6888, or visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com.
This is Rocc with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Cardinals last night, the 5-3 loss to the Phillies in extra innings. Game 2 tonight, 6:45. First pitch, it'll be Zach Wheeler, the righty for the Phillies, 0-1 on the season with a .75 ERA and a .75 WHIP, facing off against Sonny Gray in his Cardinals debut. He will be on a pitch count of 65 today. The Blues are back in action tomorrow, facing off against the Blackhawks down at Enterprise Center. It's a 7 p.m. puck drop. You can catch the pregame show right here on 101 ESPN starting at 6 p.m. And also last night, the NCAA Final Four championship, UConn-75 Purdue-60. They go back-to-back, and they win every single game of both of their tournament runs by at least 13 points. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff. Find your roads and shop 24/7 at londoff.com and londoffautoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
Grimsley and Dan McLaughlin. I'm Randy Carricker. The opening drive on 101 ESPN in St. Louis. Aaron Nola, the veteran right-hander, will start for Philadelphia tomorrow in the finale of a 3-game series between the Cards and the Phillies. And Aaron Nola joins us now on the Celebrity Line here on 101 ESPN. He joined us on the show last year. Good morning, sir. How you doing?
Morning, guys. I'm doing well. How about you guys?
Everything's going well here. First of all, who in that Philadelphia clubhouse won the NCAA pool?
Taiwan Walker.
Okay, good for him. That was a tough run this year, man. Even though some of the blue bloods were there, how did you do?
I didn't partake in it.
Okay, all right.
Let those guys do their things. It's fun for me to watch them.
Well, Aaron, it's great talking to you again. The last time we spoke to you was back in September of last year, and you went on to test the waters of free agency, but you ultimately, of course, decided to stay in Philly. Why was that the right choice for you in your career?
I've always wanted to stay in Philadelphia. Obviously had to exercise free agency as part of the business, part of the game, and after the season ended, after we lost out in the NLCS, there was really no guarantee that Philadelphia was going to bring you back. So the reality was I was a free agent, and I was kind of riding solo right there. But I'm definitely blessed to be able to signed early, and get everything situated and in place outside of baseball, family-wise, housing, just to know where we're setting up shop. And we're grateful that nothing's really changed. And obviously I've been with Philadelphia my whole career, so all the relationships and friendships that have come to form, that was important to me. And also to my wife, all the relationships and friendships she's made over the years that we've been together was important to her too, and that's important to me as well. So I think that part was huge for me, and just to be around the same guys that I've been around for several years, the same team pretty much the past 3 years, especially the past 2. I think that's pretty special. So that was a big part of me signing back. But I'm definitely grateful that we got everything done early, because I know how hard it's been for some of those guys that just signed or still haven't signed yet, not knowing where they're going to be or what city they're going to be in, and if they have families or kids, and how hard it was for them. So I'm definitely grateful for that.
Aaron, as you can imagine, there's a lot of talk about what's happening with certain pitchers and elite pitchers getting hurt in the game today. I'm not asking you to give us like your full rundown as to why, but do you have a basic theory as to what we're seeing right now in terms of some of these big pitchers and really across the board in baseball, why guys are getting hurt?
I don't really have an answer for that, but I mean, it sucks to see, in my opinion. Like, I don't like anybody getting hurt. It's hard to see, like you said, really good pitchers get hurt. We need those guys in our game. We need those guys to pitch. I mean, health obviously is a big thing. It's the number one thing for players to stay on the field and to produce for the team and for baseball. So I don't really have an answer for that. I mean, that could be a multitude of things that go into it. I know people don't want to say it's the pitch clock or this and that. I think that does have a little bit of effect on it, just because, one, we're getting back into it again. Over the course of a season, we get used to it. You get a feel of pitching without guys on, having good starts with it. You get times where you don't have good starts with it. You're backing up bases, and things are kind of running really quick out there, and you feel a little rushed. So I feel like experiencing those things and kind of getting used to them again, year by year, is important. I know that us kind of getting our feet wet again with the pitch clock this year, and it being really cold, especially up in the Northeast and kind of the Central. Guys, we have to really try our hardest to stay healthy. Do everything we can, even more to stay healthy and do body work if that's what guys do. Work out more, work out less if that's what guys do. I think the emphasis on the body really has to kick up a notch.
Philadelphia right-hander Aaron Nola with us on 101 ESPN. And Aaron, in your first year, and it wasn't your first full year, but when you came up in 2015, the Phillies lost 99 games, and then you won 71, and then you won 66 in your third year. Now we watch you guys in the playoffs, and we see that stadium absolutely rocking. How much does it mean to you, as a guy who was there for those down times, to have this franchise where it is now, where the city is just turned on by the Phillies?
Wow, I appreciate it so much. It's amazing. It really is. I'm super blessed to be able to go through that part of a rebuilding era and that whole phase to a championship caliber team now with one organization. We've made such big strides. The players have come in, and not just getting guys with really good talent. I mean, we have that. You can look around our clubhouse, but guys that are good dudes, good character guys, good family guys. We mesh really well with each other. We enjoy being around each other. We play well with each other. So I think that plays a big part of it. And I think it was overlooked, the chemistry of clubhouses and of a team. I think it's overlooked a little bit nowadays. And in 2022, when we finally made the postseason, first time since 2011, that group meshed really, really well. And we had good players, yeah, but we might not have been like, the best team on paper or winning, 100 games, but we just squeaked in, and we got hot at a good time, and we grinded with each other, and we enjoyed being around each other. So I think chemistry plays a big part of it. I think that's what we got. We got a lot of that right now.
Aaron, just watching the Cardinals last night and as a team preparing for them in this series, what has stood out to you the most about this Cardinals team?
They're a good team. The Cardinals they're always going to be a good team. And, they got a lot of veterans, but they also got a lot of young guys too. A lot of young studs that I see playing on that squad right now, and that's really good for the future for those guys. And good fan base, good stadium, a lot of good history, and so they have a good mold over there. And I mean, personally, I think the veteran guys that they brought in this year helps them a lot. And my good friend Kyle Gibson over there, I mean, he's one of the best guys to be over there for them, in my opinion. And I think that's just going to help them a lot, especially when you have a veteran pitcher like him, kind of that can pave the way, and a guy who goes out and takes the ball every time he's given the baseball. Stays healthy a lot, has a lot of experience over his career. That helps those young guys out a lot, especially those young pitchers.
And Kyle Gibson, now the president of Big League Impact. How did you get introduced, Aaron, to Big League Impact?
Gibson. Yeah. When he came over in the middle of 2022, he kind of talked about it a little bit, and then I ended up getting on board in 23 last year. And Kyle he's been with him for a little while now, and it's such a cool thing that they do, and Wainwright does, and it's pretty special. I mean, I honestly wish I could have got in it or kind of known about it earlier in my career. I just had no idea. So I'm glad Gibby came along and spread that word to me, and we've tried to get a couple guys to jump on board, and we had. So it's pretty cool, and I'm glad to be able to do it again. And
you're involved with the all-win campaign, right? For every win the Phillies get?
Yes, all-win campaign.
That's fantastic. Hey, I also wanted to know, how cool is it for you to know that you're going to be pitching the day after Wheeler does? Because
cool,
you know he's going to turn in a great performance pretty much every time, right?
Oh man, he's one of the most special pitchers I've played with and seen. I've obviously seen him a lot when he was with the Mets and faced him a good bit. Obviously, we all knew he had great stuff, and threw hard. He was a big competitor, super talented. But when he came over here, just to be able to see how he works and how humble he is, and nothing really gets to him. He never gets too high. He never gets too low. He's the same guy every single day, and for him to go out and not only overpower guys, but he can spot up every single one of his pitches, and I feel like every year he adds a new pitch and it's elite. So for him to go out there and do what he does and give us a chance every single time to win a baseball game, and what the guy's done in the postseason for us, it's pretty special. I'm really glad we were able to sign him again to an extension. That was big time for us, big time for Philadelphia, and we're definitely looking forward for him for a few more years.
Aaron, as you mentioned, Kyle Gibson, the president of Big League Impact. What is your role with Big League Impact, and what would be your message to fans to get involved?
Gibby just told me about it a couple years ago, and I wanted to get on that all-win campaign, and I really love doing it now because I just go with, right now I do money for each team win and each strikeout. So when Gibby told me I could do something like that, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. That's a perfect way to help charities out, help people out. Just by every game I go out and pitch, to have a good game, great. But for me to be able to help somebody out, even if I have a good game or I have a bad game, and still help them out is great. So that's kind of my role right now with them. And obviously I'm going to keep doing that, and I'm going to keep trying to spread the word a little bit and get more teammates to jump on board. So that's kind of my role with that right now.
We love the way that you use your platform, Aaron Nola, and we love the fact that you take some time on the road to get up and visit with us here in St. Louis. Thank you so much. Go get them tomorrow against the Cardinals. Not too much, but to go get them tomorrow and have a great 2024.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on today.
We'll talk again, Aaron. Thank you. Appreciate it. That is Aaron Nola, the Philadelphia right-hander. And for me, Dan and Brooke, I thought going into free agency last year, he was the best free agent pitcher available. And when you have two studs like Wheeler and Nola going back-to-back, you've got it as all due respect to what the Dodgers have. We don't really know what Yamamoto is, and we really don't. Bobby Miller is up. And the two most established starters together in the National League are those two, Wheeler and Nola.
Yeah, you can make that case for sure. There's a couple other combinations that I would think of as well, but you can't go wrong with these two. And if you're a fan going to the ballpark tonight, you're going to see Wheeler up front, and in person, he is nasty. And then Aaron Nola tomorrow, he is flat out nasty. Mm-hmm. I mean, he is really good. I would have loved to have asked him. We run out of time, but did he consider coming to St. Louis at all? Was that even on his radar? Or if the Cardinals had contacted him, or maybe Waino doing little back channels for the Cardinals and get him to St. Louis, but if there was even an option of Aaron Nola coming to St. Louis.
We figured when we told him about the free zoo that it was a lock.
Yeah, I get it.
I think Philadelphia just overwhelmed him.
Yeah, probably so.
And we do have the BFIB, right? But I've never seen anything like the playoff crowds in Philly.
They're amazing. I mean, I've been there for that, and they're out of control in a good way.
Yep.
They're so into it every pitch. And let's face it, the Phillies are an entertaining team. Kyle Schwarber's hitting bombs. You've got, obviously, Bryce Harper. Now they've added Trey Turner a year ago. It's a fun team to watch. There's no question.
Personality of a guy like Castellanos, and you've got Real Muto behind the plate. I mean, a lot of really good and really entertaining players. You're 100% right. That's Dan. That's Brooke. I'm Randy. Coming up, Rocc and roll down the stretch here on 101 ESPN. Hey, if you are looking at your home after it rains in the spring in St. Louis and the water is coming over the side of your gutters, I can tell you it's not supposed to do that. And that's why you need to get in touch with Gutter Pros at gutterpros.com. That might be a problem with leaves in your gutter. And at Gutter Pros, they offer leaf protection, and they do a great job of that. Soffit and fascia, and they even do siding. And now's a great time to consider a new face for your house, a new look, or just a refreshed look. And if you want that, go to gutterpros.com. They're a great St. Louis company. They're A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau. They're St. Louis based, and they're going to work anywhere within 50 miles or so of their downtown offices. They'll come out, provide you a free estimate, and it's a low-pressure estimate. When you're working with Gutter Pros, they're going to look at your house. They're going to say, okay, here's what you need, here's the price, and that's it. If you want to take advantage of their great offer, you can, but if you want to look elsewhere, they're going to pressure you to sign right away. It's a great St. Louis company, Gutter Pros is, and if you need new gutters, you need soffit, you need fascia, go to gutterpros.com and set up your free appointment today.
Hey everyone, it's Brooke here. I want to tell you why I love the Missouri Athletic Club. This year, I've made two really big goals for myself. One, getting into better shape. I'm already in pretty good shape, but I wanted to get into better shape. So I've been working out twice a week with my girl, Christine. She has been amazing. Not only is she helping me with my workouts, I'm getting stronger, but also she's helping me too, just with nutrition advice, all that different stuff. And sometimes she works as a part-time therapist for me as well. I also have been getting back into tennis thanks to Missouri Athletic Club. It's been great going over there to the West location and working with Scott. And also it's just been exciting to just get back to what I love to do, which is playing tennis. They always provide a wonderful experience, and that's why I love my MAC.
I want to rock. And roll.
Let's rock. Let's rock today.
Coming up, we've got a balloon party, but before that, we've got Rocc and Roll here on 101 ESPN. Rocc, what do you got for us?
We got some texts yesterday about a topic people wanted me to do in rock and roll, but we had other stuff to talk about, so I passed it off because we didn't get a chance to talk about the city game. But now I'm going to bring it up since we have a short rock and roll here before the end of the show. Over the weekend, I got in a little bit of Twitter thing because somebody was
like a spat.
Yeah, spat.
Oh, no,
because there was somebody complaining that somebody had the audacity at a baseball game to stand up in the middle of an inning and cheer during the game for about half an inning, and people were enraged that it was egregious that somebody stood up during this game and cheered, and I thought that's the dumbest opinion I've ever seen. Not surprised. It's clearly a weird St. Louis thing that people will yell at you if you stand during sporting events. But nonetheless, I just think it's the oddest thing in the world. And I had some people agree with me. I had a lot of people not agree with me. But, yeah, if someone wants to stand up for a half of an inning and cheer during a game, let them.
Not a soccer game, they're up and cheering, right?
That's different because that's more of like, and on that one too, just because a lot of the stadium is standing up, if someone wants to sit down, as long as they're not complaining that you're standing up, let them sit down if they want to. Like, don't be that much of a hard ass about people who choose to sit when you're supposed to stand. The same thing works for the opposite way. Don't be such a hard ass.
One, I think it's just a good debate to have because there's always unwritten rules when it comes to fandom and certain events. I feel like baseball is one of the sports where unless it's an environment of where something is exciting and happening at that moment, that at bat, a pitch, something that really determines the game, then everybody's standing. The photo that Rocc is talking about, the guy looked like he was an adult, so this wasn't a kid. A kid, they stand. It's things that happen like that. But it was an adult that was standing during an entire half inning, according to the person who took the photo, and everybody else is sitting around them.
The Cardinals have made it a point to provide a lot of standing areas. If you want to stand, there are plenty of standing areas at the ballpark. Whether it's if you're down in the box seats, you can go back to the back, and there's a wall right behind you. If you're in the upper deck, you can go to the Budweiser Terrace up there. There are plenty of areas to stand without standing directly in front of somebody's view.
And by the way, just standing up quickly to cheer, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all.
No, not at all.
Yeah, and again, if somebody stands in front of you, there's nothing wrong with asking them, hey, please sit down. You're blocking my view. If somebody's like, hey, just, this is a big at bat. I want to stand up and watch this one. I think that's a completely reasonable thing, too. You don't know. The person might have a personal connection to the person at bat. Heck, at Vegas right now with everything betting, they might have a very personal connection to what's going on at that at bat for other reasons. So maybe that's why they're standing up. I just thought it's not weird to ask somebody, hey, can you please sit down? You're blocking my view. I thought it was weird to take it to Twitter and complain about somebody who wasn't personally blocking your view. And I personally have a thing about this because growing up, I got yelled at a lot at Rams games when I would stand up and cheer for third down. Stand up and cheer. Let's get the defense going. And I would get yelled at a lot during those games by people sitting behind me to sit down during those games. And for years, I would tell people outside of St. Louis that I would get yelled at by people at Rams games to sit down during the game. And people straight up just would not believe me that was a phenomenon that happened at Rams games. And it happened to be too at Cardinals games, happened to be too at Blues games. And it's a weird thing, and it's always just kind of been a pet peeve of mine.
I think it's dependent on the sport.
And in the section, that didn't happen in the upper deck where I was.
You weren't standing?
That's the only place I ever sat in Rams games was in the 300s.
Oh, you're talking about Rams in the 400s.
Yeah, probably in the 400s. You're right. Never in my life did I ever sit below like the upper bowl. And man, people hate. I mean, you would stand up on a third down and people would tell you, sit down. I can't see the play. You're telling me that standing up at a third down isn't a reasonable moment to stand up in a football game?
It is.
And
we were standing all the time.
That's my thing. It hits me as this St. Louis thing of just like, no, I want to sit down and watch my sport when I come. When I'm at a sporting game, I expect people to stand up and cheer. I don't get mad when people yell because it's a sporting event. I don't get mad when people stand up during a game and watch it. It doesn't bother me inherently.
I think that you just have to make sure that you clarify here. There's nothing wrong with standing up and cheering at certain points, but the specific person, according to the tweet, was somebody who was standing for an entire half inning silently.
There's nothing wrong with standing for a half inning.
And then from Christopher Bloom on the YouTube chat, Rocc is misrepresenting this. The person wasn't standing cheering; they were just standing there silently.
Okay, and so now you're mad that they're not cheering enough. So if they would have been cheering, would you have been okay with it?
Somebody said from the 618, "Do you stand up at the movies?"
But that's different. There are no one ever stands up at the movies. Plenty of people stand up for moments during a baseball game. You don't get to decide when a moment in a baseball game is big enough for a person to stand up. They have their own reasons for cheering. That's why it's sports. Like they can choose when they want to have a big moment to be like, "Oh, all right, let's go." That's their prerogative.
I think you have to also read the room is the biggest thing here.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
You shouldn't have to constantly be like, well, no one else is standing, so I don't want to stand. If you stand up and react, and somebody then says, hey, can you please sit down, then I understand being polite. But I don't think constantly expecting people, well, is my section standing up during this moment? Well, then I won't stand up during this moment.
It's all about being considerate, or just be, and maybe somebody did bring this up to the fan, and she still stood there. I've dealt with that before.
But that wasn't. That's not this case though. So she even because the lady said in the thread, I asked the people that she was standing in front of, do you have a problem with this? Do you want me to say something? And they said no. That's my other issue is this lady wasn't even blocking the lady that made the post.
Yeah, but if somebody does, there's, like I said, there's plenty of places to go stand where everybody else is standing.
Yeah, that's true. Read the room a little bit.
Yeah.
Don't want to block, especially if there's kids behind you. Don't want to block their view.
I'm lazy.
People with disabilities.
Stay up on the seats.
There's many different older people who can't stand.
Yeah, obviously there's a lot of anecdotal,
No, you want to stand
small
in front
percentage
of
things.
in front of old people. That's what I heard.
But I'm talking about just like the overwhelming majority of the instances of these happening. Those aren't special things that are actually taking place. A lot of this is just one person wants to sit and one person wants to stand.
I don't even stand up for the wave.
That's
put your hands up?
Good for you.
I do put one hand up. One hand.
Hell, you put 2 hands up for Yoho.
Yeah, but one hand for the wave.
Okay.
I'm not that into it.
All right.
So, but, thank you, Rocchio. That's a really good one.
I just thought I'd throw it out. People were texting yesterday, and I was like, well, we have other stuff to talk about today. Yeah. There wasn't as much.
Great job by our producer and audio and video engineer, the one, the only Matthew Rocchio.
Pleasure.
Brooke, did you have fun today?
Yeah, I had fun, especially here at the end, because I like firing up Rocc.
Oh, he's fired up.
Oh, no.
Here we go.
Oh, okay.
Great job,
what
Daniel.
happened?
Thank you, sir. Great job as always.
That's the great Danny Mac. We thank you for tuning in, texting in, and being a part of the show. And for all of us, until tomorrow morning at 7, have a great Taco Tuesday, St. Louis.